సరే ఒక నిమిషం చెప్తాను.
Good morning to all dignitaries, guests, and delegates. With great joy and immense pleasure, I, Khushbu Parida, final year MBA student at the Oxford College of Business Management, feel privileged to extend my warm welcome to all present here for the International Conference on Entrepreneurship and Innovation, Embracing Sustainability and Transformation. The Oxford College of Business Management, under the aegis of Children's Education Society, is The Oxford College of Business Management, under the aegis of the Children's Education Society, is one of the leading institutions founded by late Sri Narsaraju Garu, and the unprecedented legacy is still being continued by our chairman, Sri SNLV Narsimha Raju Garu. The Oxford College of Business Management's phenomenal growth translates the linkage between the industry and academia, research focus, and prominent teaching fraternity into its consistent academic quality. The Oxford College of Business Management focuses on three core principles: education, research, and social participation, and we incorporate all three into our commitment to students and stakeholders. In our midst today, it's gratifying to have our revered guests, Sri SNVL Narsimha Raju, Chairman, the Oxford College of Institution, Dr. Chengroy Roychand Jain, Founder Chairman, Jain Group of Institution, Professor Vice Chancellor, Jain University, Dr. Ishwaran Iyer, Vice Chancellor, Jain University, Dr. Raj Singh, Dr. Nikita Alur, Principal, the Oxford College of Business Management, Mrs. Ujwala M. Raju, Management Representative, HSR Campus. The chief guest of the day, Dr. Ramanujan Kashi, is a Senior Director at Dialpad and was until recently the Managing Director of Cupid Technologies Private Limited. He was also head of Avaya Labs Research in India. It is my honor and privilege to welcome our panelists, Mr. Craig Jude Morea, Senior Program Manager, Wadhwani Foundation, Ms. Divya Purnaya, Founder Director of Brand Update, Mr. Amit Nambiar, Founder Over the Cloud Group, and Mr. Rishabh Jain, Director and CEO of Evolve Youth. I also welcome the facilitators of the Entrepreneurship Empowerment Cell, Dr. Arpana, Professor Meera, and Professor Anuradha, Dr. Ravi Kumar, and Dr. Shweta, who took the initiative to organize this international conference. It is indeed a privilege and pleasure to welcome you and the audience here. The Entrepreneurship Empowerment Cell is a student cell dedicated to promoting the spirit of entrepreneurship among students of the Oxford College of Business Management. Our quality students have a plethora of novel ideas for technical as well as non-technical startups, and we plan to nurture and foster them. With this thought in mind, and shed more light on the cell and its highlight, I would like to request Dr. Nikita Alur, Principal, the Oxford College of Business Management, to give the welcome address. Our beloved Principal, Dr. Nikita, doesn't need any introduction. Our campus vibrates and echoes her prominence. With a doctoral degree in management from Bharatiyar University, she was heading the department at Dayanand Sagar Business Academy. She was associated with DSI for more than 12 years. She has also worked with Newtek Information Systems, Stanford, Connecticut, USA, as a compliance officer. She is also experienced in the recruitment process and analyzing advertising media. I welcome you, ma'am, and hand over the session to you.
A very good morning to everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
A very good morning to everyone. At the outset, I take this privilege to welcome all the dignitaries to this two-day virtual conference on entrepreneurship and innovation, embracing sustainability and transformation, to enrich the knowledge of faculties and students through interaction with distinguished personalities from industry and academia. It's my sincere pleasure to welcome our Honorable Chairman, the Oxford Educational Institutions, an eminent personality, Sri SNVL Narasimha Raju Garu. Our institute finds its strength through his blessings, valuable suggestions, and guidance, and is a source of motivation to all of us. On behalf of TOCBM, I extend a warm welcome to you, sir. It's a privilege to welcome the Chancellor and Founder Chairman, Dr. Chendraj Roychand, Jain Group Institutions, to this intellectual gathering. I also take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Raj Singh, Vice Chancellor, Jain Deemed to be University, and Dr. Ishwaran Iyer, Pro-Chancellor, Jain, deemed to be University. On behalf of the Oxford College of Business Management, I extend a warm welcome to all of you. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Ramanujan Kashi, Senior Director at Dialpad, India. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to extend your knowledge and wisdom to this intellectual gathering. Thank you, sir. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Mr. Craig, Senior Program Manager, Vadvani Foundation, for accepting our invitation to add light into the virtual conference. We will be moderating the panel discussion on education and studentpreneurship, a game changer. I take this opportunity to welcome other panelists, Ms. Divya Purnaya, Founder Director, Brand Update, and our young and dynamic panelists, Mr. Rishabh Jain, Director and CEO, Evolve, and Mr. Amit Nambiar, Founder at Over the Cloud Group, to this August gathering. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome our technical session chairs, Dr. Geeta R., Associate Professor, Christ, deemed to be University, Dr. Mudita Sinha, Assistant Professor, Christ, deemed to be University, Bangalore, Dr. Sureka Nayak, Assistant Professor, Christ, deemed to be University, Bangalore, and Dr. Vijaya V., Head of the Department, Faculty in Finance, Amity Global Business School. It's my sincere pleasure to welcome all our distinguished guests, principals, head of the departments, faculty members, and staff of various colleges across India for this two-day conference. We are really delighted to see the overwhelming number of participants registered for our conference. We have principals, directors, faculty members from close to 55 different colleges across India. I request participants to mute so that there will not be any disturbance. Coordinators, please coordinate. Promoting entrepreneurship and startups will ensure an unprecedented wave of long-deserved growth, prosperity, and well-being that can serve the interests of the rest of the world as well as the spirit of New India. Creating a nation of job creators and not just job seekers is important for sustainable growth. And central to this is the need for extensive collaboration between corporate industry, academia, and government at the village, district, state, and central levels. However, what has been lacking is a holistic innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem that stimulates, enables, and supports inspiration, imagination, and innovation in our institutes, universities, industries across the length and breadth of the nation. We need to understand here one more thing, that startups are not just bringing innovations, but are also evolving as major job creators. The year 2022 has brought new opportunities and avenues for startups. If you remember, National Startup Day has been declared on January 26th by our Honorable Prime Minister, with the main objective to percolate startup culture to the grassroots level. Now the question is it difficult to be an entrepreneur? Successful entrepreneurs says 10% of your effort is what required to get the feel of entrepreneurship. One thing we need to understand, that you don't have to come from an entrepreneurship background or a business background to start up a venture. All it takes is the dedication, idea, and the intent to do it. And most important is that you should be open to take risk, because it is not easy to start a venture or a company without taking any kind of risk. You need to have courage, you need to be bold, need to take risk to start. Unless you are ready to take the risk, you would not see the benefit later. Look at all the startups who are now moved out of the startup. If you look at companies like Swiggy, Zomato, Flipkart, Byju's, Uber, they all started 5-10 years back as a startup, and today they all are unicorns. famous and moved out of the startup concept, and now they all are a standalone companies by their own. That is all because they had a good idea, good concept. They took the risk. They were ready to face challenges, and today they are where they are right now. That is how we have to look at it. You know, people say entrepreneurship is not my cup of tea. Starting a venture is not my cup of tea. Without trying it out, you can't say that. Once you have to try and see to know whether it is your cup of tea or not. By just looking at other people, you can't assume and say that it is not my interest. It is not my cup of tea. I don't have that caliber. I don't have that capabilities. I can't do it. It is too much for me to handle without jumping into it. You don't know what it is. Without trying or making an attempt, you can't come to any kind of conclusions. We assume that we have not come from that background. I don't have knowledge or experience. I'm not from a business background. My grandfather is not a businessman, or my parents are not a businessman. How can I be able to run a venture out of this business? No. That is what 10-15 years back we were thinking like that, but now the scenario is not the same. It's different. Now everything is advanced. You have like so many options. You have support system from various fields. A lot of investors. You have got like the platform to experience and try. A lot of investors are coming forward to help and support. You have many angel investors who are coming forward to help. Now you have government to fund you. Opportunities are available. It is the interest and intent is what is required. If you been following the news or the media, a few months ago, our Prime Minister has announced, we know that Startup Day, and also he has announced that they have allocated funds for startup. There's a project that's going to start called Project India. Government of India has invested crores of funds aside for entrepreneurship. So in order to receive that fund, your venture should be a very good venture with unique ideas that are not available in the market currently to be able to get those funds. So whichever venture is having a good idea, which can be turned into a venture, the government will come forward and fund you. You can apply for the fund and government will fund you. Apart from government fund, we have various other organizations who can also fund, like Tata Group of companies, to name few. Reliance Group of companies also fund startup companies. But in order to come into that category and grab the opportunity, we have to make our venture a good venture. If we are serious about our ideas and venture, only then it is possible. And how we are able to do that is by actively, enthusiastically participating, registering yourself, getting ideas from various experts, entrepreneurs, successful and also those who have failed. Or if you are a student, by enrolling, registering yourself in the entrepreneurship cell or club, if you have one. We have entrepreneurship. If you see, like in our college, entrepreneurship empowerment cell, the main objective is to provide a platform to our students so that they to inspire, to innovate, and to incubate. We call incubate. We call it as I3. The mantra of our entrepreneurship cell is I3. So why are we conducting all these kind of conferences, and why are we establishing these kind of cells and clubs at the institutes? Why should we have a cell? What is the benefit to the college? What are the advantages for the students, academicians, by having such events? Are we just doing it for the sake of doing, for accreditation, to get grades? No, India needs startups to sustain our economy. As per the research conducted in the Oxford University, in the United States, by the year 2030, there will be job constraints around the world, around the globe. You know, companies will not be able to recruit youngsters. So that is why we are trying to help startups to come. When we have more startups, there will be more job creations. Tomorrow you start the company and you will employ 10 people on an average, and then it will go on and on, like 20 to 30, 100. So that is what it goes on. So that is what is our benefit to the institution. that will be our profit. The more jobs you create is what is our profit, because that's how we see it. We don't see profit in terms of money as an institution, as in business management college. We see profit in terms of how many people you are able to employ. Because if country is not able to give you jobs, then what are you going to do? Where are you trying to go? After finishing your degree, after finishing your postgraduate degree, what are you going to do? You can't always depend upon on your country to give jobs. You can't always depend on the MNCs or transnational companies to give you job. There will be a time when they will be stagnated. They will not be available to move further. Then what do you do? How do you sort that problem? The only way the problem can be solved is by creating entrepreneurs worldwide. In turn, those entrepreneurs will start giving more jobs. That's what is our way of building an ecosystem. That's how we would like to help the youngsters through our entrepreneurship empowerment cell at TOCDM. Another significant aspect before I conclude is whether startups should embrace sustainability. The message is very clear for all. Align your business strategy to sustainability targets and reap monetary rewards. Paying attention to environmental, social, and governance issues, we call it as ESG, is becoming increasingly critical for all companies across all industries. In the latest McKinsey Global Survey, 83% of C-suite executives and investment professionals believe that ESG programs will generate more shareholder value in 5 years' time than they do today. And since most people care about making the world a better place, there's a lot of money flowing into funds that score well on the ESG front. From barely $1 trillion in global ESG funds in 2019, the figure has nearly tripled to $3 trillion today. That's a quantum leap in a very niche form of investing. Well, our startups are changing the rules of the game and are going to be the backbone of New India, as mentioned by our Prime Minister. I'm sure this conference will be beneficial for all of us and provide a platform to encourage the entrepreneurship ecosystem in the higher education institutes as per the Startup India initiatives of the Government of India and the New Education Policy 2020 initiatives. Thank you one and all. Take care and stay safe. Let us innovate for India, innovate from India. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the insightful words. I am profusely elated to take an opportunity to introduce our chief guest of the day, Dr. Ramanujan Kashi. Dr. Ramanujan Kashi is a senior director at Dialpad. He was a founding member and managing director of a startup company, Cooper Technologies Private Limited, and was also a head of Avaya Lab Research in India. He and his team have contributed to Avaya's research in web real-time communications, digital ink, user authentication, collaboration, e-learning, streaming video, self-service systems, and the use of these technologies in Avaya's CRM and VoIP office. Dr. Kashi obtained his bachelor's in instrumentation technology from Sri Jayachama Rajendra College of Engineering, Mysore University, and the master's in biomedical engineering and doctoral degree in computational neuroscience from Laboratory of Vision Research, Rutgers University in New Jersey, US. Soon after, he joined AT&T Bell Laboratories at Murray Hill, the USA in 1994, and as a member of technical staff, transferred to Lucent Bell Labs in 1996 and subsequently Avaya Research in 2000. In 2004, he relocated to India to start a research group institute in multimedia at the company's wholly owned subsidiary called Avaya India Private Limited. He has numerous book chapters, edited a book on document processing, and over 40 publications and 25 patents. We are honored to have you among us, sir. And now I hand over the session to you.
Thank you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. We are able to hear you.
Fantastic. Okay, so let me. Can somebody enable my screen sharing? Hello. Can you please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They're giving you the rights.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay.
You've enabled. Sir, you can share your screen.
Okay. It still says host disabled participant screen sharing.
So 1 minute, sir.
Sure.
Correct and చెప్పండి.
So can you check now, sir?
Yeah, I can screen share now.
Yeah.
So let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, sir. We can see, sir. You can go ahead.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks for inviting me to share my thoughts and experience in this area. I'd like to welcome and thank all the distinguished guests, staff members, faculty, students, from both the Jain Institute, Oxford College of Business Management, and I hear that there's a lot more of faculty and staff that are attending this today. I'm really delighted to talk about some of the work. I mean, this is a very heavy topic, and as Dr. Nikita was mentioning, there's a lot of emphasis in the startup innovation, especially in India. So I'll give you a little bit of my views, my thoughts about it. It's of course a very narrow, and this is how it's just based on a few the last 6 years of my experience doing a startup. Of course, I've been involved with innovation right now for more than 30 years, but I took the plunge into entrepreneurship and trying to have a startup, and some lessons learned. So I'd like to sort of go over this. Of course, this may be relevant. Some of them may be relevant. It also sort of depends upon what kind of startup and other contexts that may be there. But what I will do is I will sort of set the stage with one problem that for instance, India is India is looking for solutions, right? That we have a tremendous growth in the last 10-15 years. We have seen an explosion in terms of transformation of what we call as digital transformation, right? And we've noticed that over and over again, when we try and call for instance, an airline company, a bank, or any government organization, very, very difficult to be able to have a conversation with somebody with a low waiting time, right? So you call somebody, you're possibly put on an IVR menu, you're waiting and waiting and waiting and hoping to get to talk to somebody, and this problem is only getting worse, right? And the reason why it's getting worse is obviously there is a lot more people who want I don't know if the last couple of times when we were trying to file our taxes, because of the issue with the from the operation of the taxing system, it took a lot of time for people to still file their taxes, and we had to extend this by 15 days, by a month, just to make sure that we can accommodate all these requests, right? So it's a very, very practical problem in India. A huge population, and people who can help us are probably 1,000 or 1/10,000 or 1 millionth of the people who can help us. How do you solve this asymmetry problem? Is really what what I'm going to be focused on, right? So I'm going to be talking a little bit about how the paradigms are changing, and also sort of set the stage for saying that this is one of the best times I've ever seen for innovation, right? Because there's so many very, very interesting, very practical problems that need to be solved, right? And now is the time to build it. And obviously start having a startup. There's a lot of interesting things about creating jobs, right? That's absolutely one of the key things. Exciting the people. We have enormous talent in India, and the idea is how do we make sure that we gainfully employ the really, really very, very strong workforce that we have, right? And let's also look at it broader, right? We don't have to necessarily go back and say only India. I think the fact that India can also be a point where you can start having startups. These startups may be relevant in other parts of the world, and you start to help in terms of getting even resources from outside the country. Because a lot of times when you have an idea, and I'll give you an example of some of these ideas where you have to do it with multiple languages, right? You may not be able to find people who can speak Swahili and other things in India, whereas you can go back and even tap into resources in South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, wherever, which part of the world, and make this one coherent, family to be able to solve some problems. Some of the paradigms that we are seeing right now, right? Typically things are moving so fast that there's a more emphasis in India, especially in India, for moving from voice to digital, right? You can't really these days afford to be able to call in, wait for getting your ticket number, or wait for your airline, wait for your bank, because you'll end up half your life just being on the phone and waiting, right? So clearly it's not we need something to change here, right? And what is it that's underlying changing is voice is moving to digital, meaning yes, there is voice is still very important. If you have, let's say, an emergency, you have to get to the hospital, you have to talk to a doctor, there are cases where you would want to do voice, but even in those cases, notice that you have to have waiting period. So try and move many of these channels to a digital channel. And digital channels, the advantage of using digital channels is you can provide a lot of self-service, right? This is where there's a lot of companies in India today that have started with emphasis on what is called as AI-based chatbots, right? So the whole idea is, how do you start designing these virtual agents or virtual concierge to be able to help address this big issue of having millions of people trying to be able to get access to services. The other paradigm that's been shifting big time is synchronous to asynchronous, right? So synchronous meaning today, when I have to pick up the phone and call, let's say, SBI, then the expectation is, I have a problem at this point of time. There's somebody in SBI who's going to help me solve that problem, right? Clearly, again, not very practical. It's very, very unlikely that you'll be able to, SBI serves, crores of customers, right? And how do you expect them to be able to try and handle, all these different queries? So then you have to have a mechanism that is saying that, okay, I'm going to move out of the synchronous channel that is expecting somebody on the other side to be able to have a conversation, a voice conversation with. Instead, have, messaging, meaning that I can message the SBI, bank, it gets routed, somebody messages me back, right? So the good news is, today we have WhatsApp, we have, we have Twitter, we have, Koo, we have so many different social channels. We have chat channels, we have email channels. Many of these channels are, either near time synchronous or completely asynchronous. That is, unless it's an emergency, I'm okay to wait for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, even like half a day, even for a day, as long as somebody sort of comes back and tells me, hey, you know what, I've got your problem. Half of it is more for me as a customer. If I have an issue, let's say my washing machine is not working today, I can't, it's frustrating, right? Because, or my refrigerator is not working, even worse, because it's really, really painful. All I need to do is to have, complaints, send a note, maybe through WhatsApp, and saying, hey, this is my refrigerator, I'm having a problem with it. And a nice message comes back and saying, sir, we've gotten your complaint. We've seen that this is the model based on your WhatsApp number. This is the model that you have, and we will have, somebody coming to your place and visiting you. If it's an emergency, click here or whatever. So you're able to then say, okay, at least my request has been accepted. So this is something which is, asynchronous. At some point, somebody may reach out to you, send a message, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about what problem that you're having? Can you try this? Can you try that? Or if this is not working, then, we really need to send somebody. So all this is part of an asynchronous conversation. How do you build a platform to be able to, quickly be able to deliver such self-services on such a platform? Right. So the emphasis is moving out from a human, 100% of the time helping you, to humans helping you whenever that's required. Otherwise, these are potentially things that can be automated. And the emphasis is, we in India should try and automate as much as possible. That's the only way I can see that we'll be able to scale our services. Right. And also the good news about so that problem statement is very simple. It's huge number of people, crores and crores of people. They want access to services. They're unable to get it. I mean, if there's any question, it's very difficult to get it. How do we do this? Typically, where I'm leading to is it should go into more and more into digital, right? Then the advantage of going to digital is it starts to become very hyper-personal. Right. So the idea is then, some very, very interesting, studies have happened, especially about trying to categorize set of people. Right. And the idea is everybody is happy if they're able to be given, like when you go into, in the olden days, when you would go into a bank or when you would go into the post office, right, you would have people actually greeting you by name, right? I mean, it was such a nice, welcoming gesture. If the bank guy sort of gets up, hello, sir, hello, Ram, haven't seen you in some time, gone are the days. I mean, we feel, all these simple courtesies that we are missing today. And the reason, again, is because banks are big, there's a lot of flux, there's a lot of people, new people in there, very, very hard to get you that so-called personal greeting, or what we call as a personal engagement. So the advantage of moving into digital is to be able to, we'll be able to sort of understand the empathy. This is where AI sort of comes in, right? AI can get enough context about that person and is able to, let's say if a customer comes in and says, hey, I'm having a problem with certain things, then immediately the empathy changes and says, okay, I'm sorry to hear that. Let me see what I can do to you. Even if the chatbot is not going to help you solve that problem, the empathy is very important, right? That tells you that, yeah, we are serious about taking down what your problem is, and then we'll address it, right? So these are the things that, we've started to realize that it's really, really good to be able to start building platforms that can generate the so-called hyper-personal customer engagement. And we've sort of seen this, especially, and India has been one of the leaders, right, with the Aadhaar one. We are sort of leading many countries trying to see if we can get all the context to be stored there so that it's easier to deliver services, right? Aadhaar has been very, very successful. There is, obviously a lot more we can do with Aadhaar. Similarly, today, in Saudi Arabia, they started a program where they said, okay, I'll have the COVID certificates, in an app. Now that app, the COVID app, which sort of started because of the COVID, is now is able to handle various things, right? So they innovated on that app to be able to now say, okay, I'll get my school, my kids' grades, try to book, vaccination shots, try to do this, try to do that. It's almost becoming an app that can potentially help you link with any of the government services, right? Similarly, in China, you've heard of WeChat. So all these people are trying to, what are they trying to do? They're trying to provide a very compelling, easy to use app that can be expandable to sort of solve this different, this disproportionate problem of your citizens trying to get access to government services. So just sort of, I thought this is sort of instructive, and this is how, when we started the company, right, we said, hey, you know what, the problem statement is very clear, and how do we start to be able to generate these sort of hyper personal experiences? So we went, there was a very great study from IDC saying that in a financial institution, typically there are different categories, or what we call as personas, right? The persona was somebody with new to the bank. That means they've just graduated, they want to open an account. The midtermer is somebody who's sort of been there, but not necessarily, expanding their accounts. Then there are people who are very traditional people, meaning that they don't want to do anything digital. They still want to go to the bank. They still want to go to the post office. How do you handle that people? Then the hyper transactor, how they do hundreds of transactions per day. Then there are people who are basically unsatisfied. Then there's a shopper who's sort of, figuring out which are the other banks that I should move towards, somebody who's in control. So these are different personas. And if you can map the different personas that you have, then you can start building AI chatbots that can handle each of these personas, right? One is to identify when the customer comes in as to which persona they belong to, and then I've sort of shown you 8 or 10. In many of the studies that we've done, it can go up to 25, it can go up to 50 personas, and it's easy, right, to be able to take an AI-based chatbot and morph it into getting these different personas, right? How do you address these different personas? And these are things that, for each of these personas, what are they looking for? Instantaneous delivery, they're looking for omni-channel, they're looking for same experience, they're looking for consultation, all these different things. This is how we start to, start getting a matrix, right? Once we have the matrix, because in a startup, right, it's very important for us to understand what is the problem statement, right? A lot of people just simply do a startup by saying, yeah, it's a good idea. No, absolutely. I think, people should, go by their instincts. But what I'm emphasizing is, along with those instincts, go into the design phase, go into the drawing board, try and understand a little deeper on the problem statement, right? And try and start to solve, sort of put it in a matrix, and then things start appearing out to you. It starts coming out and saying, okay, now I know I can start to solve these different problems. So the whole idea is, while we were thinking about a startup, we were saying, what is it to create a digital strategy that meets every customer preference, right? You want to have personalized services, you want to have self-service options, you want to enhance the experience, you want to be able to protect the data, because people are always concerned, especially with everything going to cloud. There's a lot of emphasis and a lot of innovation that's happening, in terms of customer privacy, data protection. You've seen in the last couple of years, there's a huge number of companies that are into microfinance, credit cards, all because of really, really nice innovation in payment gateways. So the whole idea is, how do we sort of bring in all these different innovations to be able to start creating a very powerful ecosystem? And the ecosystem is really moving into digital branches. So then, as students of business, these or even startups, right? So these are the things that the big companies are looking for. Are they saying, am I growing fast enough? If you look at even like SBI, right? Or look at Air India, look at all these things. We thought like our railway service, we thought they were legacy, right? But they have amazingly leapfrogged the system. So if you look at Air Seva, Air Seva is one of the chatbot that's introduced in, for the Ministry of Civil Aviation. I suggest you can sort of go and try that. It sort of gives you details about customers, the passengers wanting to get some help with the airports. The railway services are getting a lot of help. Ask Tisha. There is, you've seen banking bots. So there's a lot of innovation that's happening in this specific domain of customer service. And again, I've just sort of listed out some technologies such as analytics is really the key for machine learning. For AI, you need to get data, right? Data is very, very important, because from data you can get insights, you can get patterns, and then you're able to handle many of the what we call as what may happen in it can start to be a little bit more predictive. Because again, in terms of when we start delivering AI based solutions in the market, right, it's not like on day one you're able to get everything right. It's really the way you would crawl, then you walk, and then you run, right? So the same way you start to crawl, the thing is, sometimes when in a startup you're a little nervous. Oh man, am I going to succeed? Is this going to cause a thing? I think the way you should think about in a startup is, again, crawl, walk, run. Do things that you know are very deterministic to begin with, right? Meaning that, let's say if you're building an AI based chatbot, don't even worry about using AI initially, because you will not get it right. And so the best thing to do is get it to humans, right? You know the pattern, you know the data, what kind of questions customers are asking, what is it that's coming to an agent, how is the agent answering. So it's very, very important that you're able to crawl, which is really get the basics right, get the framework right. Now you have enough data and say, I know from the data that I have, basically the customers are asking me 5 different topics, right? 80% of my questions are these 5 different topics, right? So don't go back and build something that, I'm going to solve the world hunger problem, I'm going to solve 500, 600. No, it will not work, right? So you just look at it and say, okay, broadly 5 different things customers are coming for. Let me tell customers, I can solve these 5 problems for you. If there's anything else, I'll connect you. You please leave a message. I'll take down your request and have somebody get back to you, or I'll connect you to an agent, right? That's really what we are in the crawl stage. Then you start to walk. Then you say, oh, okay, you know what? I see a lot more questions coming on the 6th topic or 7th topic or 8th topic. You iterate, and then you start to add these different things, right? So it's over time. It typically starts with day one deployment. After a month, and then you potentially may start to run 6 months later, right? That's when the system is pretty ready. 80 to 90% of the 80% 90% of your all the services are automated. Even if it's not fully automated, at least it takes down all the relevant information, so that when some agent has to actually talk with the customer, rather than spending 20 minutes with this particular customer, they can spend 5 minutes, right? Because the other 15 minutes of collecting the data and collecting the context has been done through your self-service automation tools. So these are some of the technologies that, again, I'm putting all these things. There's still a lot of innovation that needs to be done there. It's a very, very fertile area, especially in India and elsewhere in the world. So as I said, sort of the 3 things. Personas, right? Try and understand how do you sort of classify your population. Then how do I get more and more context, right? Analytics, insights. And then look at technologies, right? Don't go back and reinvent the wheels, meaning that there's already technology. For instance, don't go back and say, I'm going to start putting the new WhatsApp or new, because if WhatsApp is already popular, right? Leverage WhatsApp, right? And then be able to build something interesting on it. A lot of people feel like, oh, I have to get control over everything. No, that's not the way the world works, right? You have to start building on top of things that's already been innovated, right? That's how we can get faster to market. So this is then sort of an example of where we sort of took some of these design principles, and our goal was to infuse as much of AI as possible in every stage of the customer journey. So being able to recognize language, sometimes we realize a senior citizen is coming and talking to us. So why don't we increase the font size, right? Because it becomes a little bit easier on their eyes, right? How do we know it? If they're doing it on WhatsApp, we know that, who this customer is, who the user of this mobile is. We have enough context. Potentially, we can always go back and say, do you want, here's an increased size. If they want to bring it down, of course, you can do it down, and make it as much visual as possible. Because imagine a lot of people today, we have a lot of digital transformation that's happening, but not necessarily digital inclusion. There's still 70% of our population are left out in this whole thing. How do we make sure we include that 70% of the population that are missing all this. How do you do this? They're actually very, very, relatively a problem that can potentially be tractable and solvable by, by startups. And how is that possible? Make, for instance, if somebody wants to buy, you can imagine, like for instance, Uber, right? Uber started to build a very nice interface for the drivers, right? So for them to easily be able to use it. And how did they do it? They put everything visual, right? As so you can imagine if somebody wants, they're unable to, read a refrigerator and everything else, show them the pictures of a fridge, show them a picture of this, show them a picture of the cycle. So it's very simple for them to point and click, right? So if a mother wants to, take her child for a vaccination, right? You can have everything so iconized that without language, right? You're able to get a woman who is sort of illiterate to be able to actually go back and sign up a date and time at a hospital for a vaccination. This can be done today, right? So the whole idea is, how do we start to innovate such things? And then as part of it, obviously, one is from a customer side. How do you make it so easy for them? Second thing is from a business side. How, the other part is, you don't want businesses to spend more and more money trying to build these automation, because it can be very, very expensive. But if you start to provide what we call as no-code automation tools, there's an emphasis today in the software world where everything is drag and drop, right? So, in fact, people are saying, the emphasis on programming, right? Right now, there's a big push for people saying, I want to get into a developer position, I get this many lakhs, that many lakhs. I would predict that within about 5 to 8 years, you don't need programming, because there are enough tools that will help you at a very high levels. You can even speak into it and say, hey, I need some things done. Can you add, I want a PDF to be put onto my phone. Please add my vaccination certificates, add this, add that. And that's it. You speak into it or type into it, automatically all this stuff is automated. You don't have to write a program for many of these things, right? So there's an emphasis on the so-called no-code automation tools to be able to generate the output of this is an experience, right? That is where, the whole software industry also is moving towards, rather than saying, oh, let me code this in this, let me code that in that, let me do some testing. Yeah, all that stuff will happen, but it's becoming a little bit more holistic and a little bit more, I would say, very, very productive. So just sort of to tell you, people want to do ID and V, you just sort of, there's people who have built ID and verification, bring blockchain in there, be able to do some kind of, of a verification. If somebody wants to do a survey, it's already there. If somebody wants to put a calendar, if somebody wants to do a payment, just invoke it, right? There is no need today for being able to start to build all this. The innovation is really, how do you start to be able to leverage this and create a nice experience? So just sort of to close on it, right? Some of the parting thoughts that I had on innovation was, one is sometimes we sort of we get used to the status quo, right? We just feel like, oh, that's the way to do it, right? And in fact, we didn't realize that, waiting for a taxi was something that could have been innovated, way back, right? But then there was a game changer called Uber, and they started saying, hey, you know what, we should do a different way of doing it, right? Look what happens. So these are things that there are hundreds and hundreds of things that today in India, if we go around and see, we'll be wondering, why are we doing it this way? Why can't we do it in a slightly different way? So, from a startup perspective, I think what I'm urging is always challenge the status quo. There's definitely a better, easier, intuitive way of doing things, right? Collaborate. You have to collaborate to win. As I said, you can't build everything yourself. You have to collaborate. Have a flexible mindset, because what typically happens is sometimes, the problem statement, you build something, you're sort of looking at a myopic view of saying this is going to solve, one problem, but you have to look at adjacency. Right? You have to look at, is this, if I can position this in a different way, can I be able to handle it, right? This is what investors are looking at, right? So when you go in and talk to an investor, they want to see, you have a main idea, fine. Then what are your adjacency, right? Because they also understand, have you thought to this problem fully well, right? Do you have a flexible mindset to go back and say, can I quickly repurpose, don't fundamentally change the rules of the game, but do you have a flexible mindset to be able to have you thought about design principles to be able to repurpose what you have built for a different vertical? The other ones, again, based on my experience, you have to embrace social channels, right? I mean, there are always people who would say, oh, everything's on the cloud, all that stuff. But there are a lot of things, whether you like it or not. Today, one of the most popular channels today is WhatsApp, right? So you have to start to look and saying, governments should sort of look at it. Banks, if you look at it, a lot of banks, a lot of government agencies don't mind doing it. You can do your payment. I can do property management. I can pay my taxes, right? I can get my, bank details, everything through either Apple Business Chat or, WhatsApp or whatever. So the whole idea is, as I said, start to embrace social channels, because these are already, available in the market, and try and see how you can innovate on that. Clearly, customer experience, the UI, the user experience, that's very, very key, right? Because if you're going to be building something, it has to be usable. Then simplicity, right? Simplicity trumps over everything. Sometimes people feel like the more complex it is, the more money I can take. That's not true at all. If it's very, very simple, it's a very basic problem, you probably will learn a lot more. You get a lot more respect. You'll get a lot more funding onto it. And I already spoke to you about digital enablement to digital inclusion and, build over technologies. So let's sort of pause here. I think I've probably also sort of gone a little bit over time. But if there's any, I thought I'll sort of leave it to see, if there's any quick questions that people have. I know we may not have, a lot more time. I'll let the moderators tell me if we can do a little bit of interaction, but I thought I'll spend a few minutes, hearing from the audience.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
I'm Professor Meera from the Department of BCom Programs at Oxford College of Business Management. Some questions maybe students have put in YouTube, so I thought I'll ask you directly.
Yeah.
So one question I had been pondering for a long time is, what priorities changed when you started taking up your entrepreneurial journey, and how could you cope up with the so much of changes in your routine or the risk-taking attitude and the qualities of an entrepreneur? If you could just give us a summary kind of a thing, maybe it will help our students to take it forward.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good question, right? One thing that I realized was, I guess just based on it, I did the startup a little later in my career, right? I had, I was working for big companies, started research labs. I sort of was doing it in each research lab. I would have incubation projects. We would try to spin it out, but really, it didn't teach me a whole lot, right? I mean, almost 25 years. I thought I had a lot of experience, but when I actually did the startup, I realized I had zero experience in that, right? I mean, it's a completely different world. One is you really need that energy, and the other part is some of the things that I've learned is it's sometimes very, very difficult. One, start young, right? It's always great to start young. You just have a lot more energy. There's a lot more risk taking, right? Because as you grow, you mature, and you start becoming a sort of seasoned and a veteran, you are going to be a little scared about taking risks, right? So the risk taking ability, you have to decide, you have to plunge into this, not knowing whether it's an ocean or whatever it is, right? Because you have to do that dive. You can't just simply think about it and say, oh, should I dive right now or not dive right now, right? So one thing I quickly learned was, it doesn't matter whether you're 40 or 50 or whatever it is, act as if you're 25, right? And just jump and start doing it. Second thing that I would do is, it's always great to get a couple of people, one or two or three, people we see it as the same wavelengths, right? Because it's very, very hard to do this all on your own. I mean, people have done it, kudos to them. They have done a phenomenal job of handling everything by themselves. But what I've noticed is if you get like 2 or 3 people who sort of share the same wavelength, same passion, things start to become a little bit more, tractable, and you're still able to sort of focus. And in terms of priorities, you have to be very careful, right? Again, sometimes when you're doing startups, suddenly you'll talk to many customers, and customers can come back and say, oh wow, this is really nice, I think this is great, why don't you try these different 5 things for me, and you'll be able to we'll be able to give you $100,000 whatever recurring revenue, right? You have to be very careful, right? Don't compromise on what you want to build just because one customer said that they wanted, because for all you know, that customer is sort of just simply saying it right now because they want you to probably do a free POC or whatever it is, right? So think about it, see whether if that request is genuine in terms of it's actually furthering your cause to be able to solve that particular problem, rather than looking at it very sort of, I'm showing you a trinket there and I want to run after that trinket. Because if you start running after every trinket that you get, very, very hard to survive a startup, right? You will have to be extremely focused, one or two ideas with adjacency, and then be able to be very, very, very focused on it, right? And as I said, the other things is, a lot of things from a design phase itself, you're able to eliminate. Because if you start building too many things, then you'll realize you've spent all the money that your angel investor has given you. At the end of the day, you really have something that nobody wants. So be very careful, spend a lot of time, internalize this. That's why I said 2 or 3 people, talk to. And again, the good news about the startup world, right? Don't underestimate people. It may be students. Students have phenomenal ideas. Take in interns. Talk to them, because especially in this area, right? I mean, I can't go back and talk to a senior person and tell them, how do I do with Instagram, right? They will probably have no experience in working in Instagram. Go to your child, right? Or go to some other people and tell them, hey, how do you use Instagram for doing all this stuff, right? You'll really get to know what you can innovate there. So these are some of the learnings that, I think I've gotten when I was building the startup, is the fact that, everybody are peers, talk to the younger generation, because tomorrow, even, you'll be surprised. People are saying, man, the workforce is going to be completely different tomorrow, right? People are expecting, work from home. They're expecting, I don't know if laptops are going to be there. I don't know even if mobiles are going to be there, for heaven's sake, right? So, what are these different things, variables, right? So there's a lot of things that's going to be changing. So it's good to be plugged in, try and, read as much as possible and talk to people. So that's the other part, while you're talking to people. And then, when we went for funding, we were beaten black and blue, right? So it almost felt like, so you're heading a company, you've got this so-called, when people come in, Dr. Ram, this, that, and everything else. Now you're going to an investor, that guy is beating you black and blue, because he says, man, I don't think this idea is great. So suddenly you'll realize that there's still so much to be learned, right? So but the good news is you have to persevere. It doesn't matter if somebody beats you black and blue. If somebody criticizes you, it's absolutely good, right? Try and see if you can justify it, but then internalize and say, yeah, man, this guy's got a valid point. It's really a useless idea because there are other things that can be done. So the thing is about hearing also, right? Make sure that you give respect to all these things.
So there is one more question from one of the participants. I'll just read out the question for you. The participant name is Vipanchi. She says, sir, like you mentioned, senior citizens might not be comfortable with online banking and digitization. How do we overcome that? And how do we make it seamless for them?
Yeah. No, that's it's a really good question. And I think we have technologies, right? So I'll just give you an example. Like my mom, right? She's 83. For her to go back and do something on YouTube and everything else, right? I would say she still does that, but now she just goes to the Alexa Echo and says, I want to listen to some old song by Radha Jayalakshmi or somebody. I mean, I don't know if there's Carnatic musicians here. I mean, these are all, or G. N. Balasubramaniam, something, right? and she gets it. So it's very simple these days. Technology has improved so much where you get very good speech recognition. Very, as I said, I want to be able to book a ticket to go to, let's say Coimbatore or whatever it is, right? I can do this with many of the tools today, right? I can do it with my mobile. And it's very senior citizen friendly. What do I have to do? It'll just, it'll understand my language. I can do it in Kannada, or I can do it in Tamil or Hindi or whatever it is. I'll be able to get a response back. I'll be able to get a confirmation back. So many of these things, right? It's transcending all this stuff. So there are technologies that's happening, especially, we have a lot of senior citizens staying at home. There's automatic things to make sure that they don't fall. All these innovations are happening today. And I see that, again, the times have come where it's really, really ripe for all these different startups, right? And at this point, for senior citizens, I think is a huge market if you can do it well.
I think that's all, sir. Not any more questions.
Yeah, and at this, I mean, I see something else, some other questions coming in. You can sort of, mail it to me later, and I can sort of, answer back, or whatever works with you. Just quickly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We will share these questions with you.
Perfect.
On a one-to-one message directly.
Fantastic.
And then and we'll also share the IDs of the participants so that you can even answer them one day.
Perfect.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for giving me an opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your expertise with us. Now it's time to proceed towards the panel discussion on education and studentpreneurship, a game changer. Amongst us, we have revered panelists with a passion for entrepreneurship to share their expertise with the delegates. Our first panelist, Mr. Craig Jude Morea. Mr. Craig Morea, Regional Manager of WE South India, has a work experience of more than 20 years. He is experienced in entrepreneurship mentoring and development. Mentor for a student startup venture, franchisee development, marketing, client team management, and product and project management. Committed to producing high quality deliverables that are on time, within scope, and on budget. Diligent and highly skilled professional with a broad understanding of social media, email marketing, and online survey campaign. Strong communication and interpersonal skills naturally build up trust and rapport with individuals of different ages, professions, and cultures. His core competencies include campaigns, brand management, marketing strategy, franchisee development, trade shows, promotions and event planning, collateral development, presentations and training, content management, aviation logistics, multitasking skills, leadership, digital media, organization and planning, and decision making. Our second panelist, Ms. Divya Purnaya, a BSc Maths graduate from St. Teresa's College and a management graduate from the Xavier Institute of Management, Bhubaneswar, specialized in marketing. A seasoned marketing professional for over 20 years working to help brands achieve their marketing goals. Her skill sets include digital marketing strategy, branding, content development, data analysis, team leadership, teaching and training, retail and modern trade. From 2013 to 2020, she was the founder director for Brand Update, covering the digital strategies for over 40 brands across product categories like retail, FMCG, e-learning, consumer durables, B2B, food, events, agriculture, and web-based services. The role she played includes strategy, design, social media marketing, search engine optimization, web app development, content generation, and data analytics. She and her team closely worked with each other to understand the brand requirements, execute the same, monitor and analyze the successes. From 2003 to 2020, she was a visiting faculty member at the Mount Carmel Institute of Management and Mount Carmel College for over 15 years of teaching management graduates specializing in marketing. She is a member of the Board of Studies and Admissions Council and as a part of the team that introduced retail management as an elective at the Mount Carmel College. and has helped design the course structure as well. She has conducted digital marketing workshops at universities for entrepreneurs and for digital marketing employees. She is a core team member and mentor at Swayam, a unit of the FICCI ladies organization that aims to scale up women entrepreneurs, businesses, and large corporations. She has conducted seminars both within the college and at other prestigious universities and conferences on marketing, consumer behavior, digital marketing, analytics, etc. She is a director marketing principal, Access Systems Private Limited, a mobile app and a web app development firm that develop cutting edge apps. Our third panelist is Mr. Amit Nambiar, who will be moderating the session. Mr. Amit has over 9 years of hands-on experience in product launches, setting up business operations, and end-to-end brand building. He has hands-on brand custodian approach to conceptualizing, implementing, and overseeing innovation marketing strategies and campaigns. He is proactive and result-oriented with an ability to deliver results under pressure across geographies and cultures. He has done brand management and marketing communication course from MICA Ahmedabad 2020, Bachelor's in Business Management, Dayanand Sagar Institute of Business Management 2008 to 2011. Over the Cloud Group, he founded it in the year 2021. He conceptualized the launch of Over the Cloud Group, a multi-brand cloud kitchen, and launched it successfully in Bangalore. He successfully collaborated with food influencers for product marketing and promotions. He has launched brands such as Sahaya and the Good Witch Project. Knights and King Confectionaries Sales and Marketing Director, he was the business partner from 2015 to 2020. He has acquired an NPA and successfully converted it into a 2 crore turnover business over just 2 years. He has aligned factory operations with marketing campaigns, business requirements, product development, branding, and improved sales through strategic B2B associations. He has identified the market opportunity for customized cake garnishes and expanded operations to cater over 100 branches of Just Bake in South India and various other prominent confectionaries. He has launched Kritunga's Plague's Cuisine in 2017, a fine dining restaurant, after strategic collaboration with the founders of the Kritunga chain of restaurants, successfully repositioning it from casual dining to a fine dining experience. He was the Red Bull marketing manager in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana for the year 2013 to 2015. He has increased ROI through commercial integration for real-time conversion of consumer collecting contracts, over 150 movie integrations, and 150 minutes of media coverage. He has done negotiation for brand presence and positioning and the commercial integration in college festivals across Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. He is also the relationship manager in Bajaj Alliance from 2012 to 2013. Our next panelist is Mr. Rishabh Jain, CEO and curator of Envisage Global, EG, and founder of Global Youth Consortium, GYC. EG focuses on offering curated level experiences and GY focusing on helping youth pursue their dream. Mr. Rishabh is a curious professional seeking knowledge and implementing them to the fullest capacity in his passion. Since 2012, he has had the opportunity to lead several projects in the education and youth development space. From spreading financial literacy to over 12,000 students, to conducting startup boot camps for over 2,800 students, to running 2 seasons of ambassador programs for Stock Market Institute and creating impact across 150 colleges. He has also been a part of several programs and summits like the Global Youth Ambassador, the Hi-Fi Global CEOs and Leader Conferences, the Harvard Project for Asian and International Relations 2017, and the SVC 2 UK in Cambridge University Debating Chamber. I welcome you all. And now I request all the panel members to engage in the panel discussion and request them to kindly switch on their cameras.
Good morning. I I hope I'm audible there.
Yes, sir, you are.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. And I thank all the participants who are out here today. I thank the management of Oxford as well for inviting us here today. Thanks.
Good morning, all the panelists. Amit, I think you can start the conversation. You're muted. He's muted. Amit's muted.
I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
forgot
yeah.
to unmute the mic. Hi guys, my name is Amit Nambiar. My area of expertise is F&B industry. And it was quite nice to hear that detailed description of me. And at the same time, it was kind of weird, but I would like to thank Nikita ma'am and Meera ma'am for this wonderful opportunity, Oxford College and all the other organizers for this opportunity. And talking about the topic, education and studentpreneurship, I mean, let's be honest, I mean, the word studentpreneurship, I would say, I mean, it's something that we're hearing of late. So when I started my journey, I mean, back in 2011, right after college, you know, when we used to get an opportunity, I mean, we had an idea or a thought, and we would run back home or like to other people and say that I want to be an entrepreneur. The first question that they would ask is, are you serious? Now, when that question popped up, I mean, it was out of concern, I agree. And they used to ask this question only because, I mean, see, you studied so hard, we paid so much for your education, you're supposed to get a job which is stable, you'll be earning a salary. So I just thought I would share a small story. I mean, rather it's about me. I mean, it's a journey that I would want to share. I mean, how I had to break through those stereotypes and how education is very important and what is entrepreneurship. So right after college, like how the questions raised, I got into a corporate, job. I started working. I worked in the corporate world for 4 years. And back then, I mean, like it's how they mention you have to take the leap of faith to become an entrepreneur. But what I would proudly say right now is it's not anymore a leap of faith, because I mean, you've got so much information. I mean, you've got information all around you. You've got mentors right from your education system. And back then, even though we had the education and we had the right mentors, we didn't have the courage to step in and make that big decision. So now I just wanted to quickly, I mean, I'm not making it very factual, but I wanted to quickly just mention what education means, or at least what my perception of education right now for me is. You know, back then, I mean, we had a lot of definitions. I mean, we were talking about education as such. I mean, for every thing, there is a definition. And you always used to wonder, I mean, how does this definitions and these descriptions and strategies help us in our career, in our business, or in our journey? But when you look at education, it's nothing but an experience. It's an experience of somebody else who actually had the curious mind to venture into the unknown, which was later translated by scholars so that the next generation would learn from it. So if you start looking at all these definitions and strategies as something that is somebody else's experience, which worked out for them, so it is also a guide. I mean, simple, if you look at, I mean, you have a destination. Now you have so much technology that if you have to get to the destination, you're instantly going to take your phone out and you're going to put it in a Google map and you're asking for the location, and you're guided throughout the journey till the destination. This is the route that you have to take. Please take right from ahead. So education is nothing but that route map. Education and information is a very key thing. I mean, like how, I mean, Dr. Ramanujan sir said, more you know, the better experience you can provide. So that is what I figured out. The education and information that we have provided initially, those are the foundations that comes very handy for our journey. Now, talking about studentpreneurship, like I mentioned, there has been a drastic change in the ecosystem. I mean, entrepreneurship, when you mention about it, I mean, I have simple facts. In the year 2016 and 17, the number of startups that were there in our country was just 726. But you would be startled to know in 2021 and 22, there are 65,861 startups in our country. So the question is, what changed? And also, if you look at the fact that it's not just startups that came up, just in the first half of 2022, there were 14 unicorns from our country and 44 throughout the year of 2021. So now I'll just quickly, I mean, tell you about entrepreneurship. And like I tell you, after the college, I took the leap of faith. Like it was mentioned, I mean, Knights and Kings Confectionery. When I had a stable income in a company, I had grown to a position, I mean, rather quick. And then I decided to take that leap of faith. And I had that question in my mind. I want to be an entrepreneur. Now, again, I mean, I was given an opportunity where there was a project which a bunch of very innovative people started and it had failed. So I got an opportunity to take over that company at a very, very reasonable deal. And then I joined their team. So the first question that I was asked is, you want to be an entrepreneur, you are leaving your comfortable life, you had a job which was paying you good, why are you taking this risk? And then I started that journey. I mean, like I took over a company which is a non-performing asset. And then the next question is, you are taking up something that was a failure. Now that's where education, and that's where, I mean, the biggest point of being an entrepreneur comes into picture, where it's not always that you learn from successes, you learn the most from the failures as well, because you have a data of where they've already failed. So I took over the company. I mean, 2 years, I mean, 2 months, I actually only went through what are the things that they did and how did they fail. Because the moment I figured out all the steps that they took that led to their failure, I was well equipped to go forward and do something that would make a difference. So in that journey, I mean, what I learned was, I mean, it's not always in the success stories that you find your inspirations or your success story. Sometimes it's also, and most of the times it's from the failures that you actually learn the most. So, I mean, like when you're taking that leap of faith into entrepreneurship, the first thing that you need to understand is it is not going to be a path of successes. It's going to be a path of failures. And, you know, sometimes they also say the one who fails the most has a much more a chance of becoming a success, because he has learned from the problem and he has innovated and become better. So I'm not getting in much more into detail of what I've done and all that stuff, but what I wanted to say is in simple, entrepreneurship is a journey. Now, it all starts with an idea, a thought, or more importantly, a problem. So if you ask me who's an entrepreneur, I would say entrepreneur is a problem solver, an innovator. Why? I mean, so the first thing that I mentioned was problem solver. Because if there is a problem, there has to be a solution. And only if there is a problem, can you capitalize on a solution or provide a service or a product. So now, if you think about any service that exists, I mean, let me be specific to my industry, F&B. We've quite often heard about the company called Swiggy, Zomato, and all these services. What do they provide? They found a problem. And these are all solutions. What is a service? It's something that we need. A person needs or wants a solution to that is always a product or a service. So, you know, when you have idea or thought, and now I also consult for various brands and various entrepreneurs who wants to get into the F&B, this thing, I'm going to keep it short. I just mentioned the main points and also a few insights. Just having the idea or thought is not enough to have a startup. It's a drive, It's that persistence that you want to follow through your idea. And also, I mean, the information that you're able to gather. And a small example from our recent times, which would perfectly explain what I was mentioning. I'm sure all of you must have heard about the company Zepto. Zepto for me is a very, very innovative company, or like rather it's a huge problem solver than a concept, because there was Swiggy, Instamart, there were other companies that were already providing the service. But what made them different? And the main reason I'm mentioning about Zepto is it was founded by Adit Palicha, and his first startup was at the age of 17. Let me be very honest, when I was 17, I had no clue what a startup is or how I would going forward, or have a startup or start. I would have had million thoughts, million ideas, but it is about how I would take it forward and make it a startup. But now that is what I would like to highlight, is the amount of information that you have. And I would say, as I'm addressing many of the future unicorn founders in this student group, what I would like to say is, now you have the opportunity of the faculty supporting you, education system backing you up, and you've got the right members right from the mentors right from the beginning. So if you go back to the Zepto, this thing, there were two youngsters who was caught up during the pandemic. Pandemic was a chokehold where a lot of people faced a lot of trouble. So there were services that were already providing the same services, but that is where the innovation comes into picture. Two youngsters who were, stuck in their building, and they wanted grocery, and they figured out grocery was the only permitted business around that time. And what they did was they offered something that is very unique. So existing idea, sometimes, we sit to think, I want to do a startup, I need a fresh idea. Not necessarily. It could be an existing idea. How can you improve an existing idea? If you think about Swiggy, Zomato, and all the other services, these services have been existing in other parts of the world. It is always about how can you improve something, innovate something, and solve a problem that is existing in your locality. Also, a very important thing is, when you're seeking ideas for your startup, the first thing I would actually, so when I got into entrepreneurship, I used to initially, sit and wonder, oh my God, there's so many problems. This is not happening, that is not happening. But then when I started jotting down every problem that I faced on a daily basis, and then I started sitting and working on which of these problems can I capitalize into a solution which would help my business, or could be another product or services. And that's how the business, from me struggling for the first 6 months of figuring out how to become an entrepreneur, to taking that business to a successful business. And that all arose from a problem. The problems that I was facing on a daily basis, the problem that people around me were facing on a daily basis. So solution was the answer for any business. So, then, these two youngsters, changed the whole game by making a promise that the delivery would happen in 10 minutes. Now, here is where information and education and mentorship comes into the picture. They could make this evaluation that they could master the 10 minutes delivery because of the data that they had in disposal. They took different areas, even if you, again, going back to Google Maps or the data that is present all over the internet, they figured out that average delivery time is 8 minutes, 47 seconds. So if 8 minutes, 47 seconds or 10 minutes had to be met, they went into a model which was already existent where, cloud kitchens, when it came to food started existing, what they did is ghost kitchens, ghost stores that were there called, or the dark stores. So they found the radius which would be covered in 10 minutes, and they set up these stores from where the delivery could happen in 10 minutes. So what I would like to highlight here is they could come to this decision only thanks to the data information, and that they were, able to gain from their resources as well as everything that is available. So saying that, I would like to just conclude what I'm saying, and just a small introduction, which I was giving, but rather long, to be honest. But What I wanted to introduce here is the importance of education and what in simple was entrepreneurship. And now I'm sure the other panel members would be able to shed much more insights about it in depth. I wanted to keep it on the surface. I hope I was informative. I would like to ask Mr. Craig Jude Moraya to please take over. And so we are looking forward to hear your insights on the same, sir.
Thank you, Amit. I would like to thank the Oxford Institute for giving me this opportunity to invite me for this event and to share my insights. As what Mr. Amit was saying about student entrepreneurship was only lately we came to hear about it. And that is very true. It is very lately that this term has been put across everywhere, every institute or every college you go. And the only reason for this is because of the job constraints which the world is seeing. Not only India, across the world, there are going to be job constraints going forward in the next 5 to 10 years. So the only solution is to create entrepreneurs. And where do we start? So the starting point can only be youngsters. And where do you find youngsters? We find youngsters in colleges and schools, and that's where we need to approach. So that is where the term of studentpreneurship came out, and that is where we are hearing a lot. And us being a foundation, the Wadhwani Foundation, which is NEN, we capitalize on that particular student entrepreneur, and we realize that students come with unique and different ideas. Though they are young, they are not scared or not frightened to to do something, and they are very creative in terms of finding a creative problem and trying to make an opportunity out of it. So that is why we focus most of our courses with students, and then we moved on to startups. And yes, education is the main factor for any entrepreneur. Irrespective of what education background you come from, education is the main factor which will lead you to be able to run a particular startup or run a particular venture. So it does not matter from which stream you come. You can be from an engineering stream, you can be an art stream, you can be a medical stream. Whatever stream you come from does not matter. It's the will and the interest. During the introduction, Dr. Nikita, the principal, was giving an introduction. She was saying that it is not necessary. Previously, in the past, there was a myth that only if you come from a business background or an entrepreneurship background, you can become an entrepreneur. So that was a myth maybe 10, 15 years back. But now that's not the case. Anybody who has a dream or a passion, as what Mr. Amit was saying, has a passion to become an entrepreneur, it is very easy. When I say easy, what I mean is the information is out there. You have, n number of mentors who are available. Back in those days, as what Mr. Amit was saying, back in those days when we thought of becoming entrepreneurs and we, choose a particular sector to do something in that particular sector, there were hardly any mentors. We have to source and find and see if we get a person who specializes in that particular field to be able to mentor us. But now you have mentors across all platforms. Now, if you want to start something in the agriculture sector, you have mentors available there to help you in the agriculture sector. If you want to start something in the IT sector, you have mentors across the IT sector to be able to help you. And also nowadays, the education system nowadays is also moving forward into entrepreneurship. And now across all institutes in India, the importance is being given for entrepreneurship, and the government of India is focusing more into entrepreneurship and is making all institutes to have a particular e-cell or have a particular course to run for the benefit of the students. It is because our Indian government understands that yes, in order to create jobs, we need to have startups, and these startups can only come from entrepreneurs, and that's why you have various schemes, various resources being utilized. So the thing is, you should always have it in mind that, I don't have to come from a business background to be an entrepreneur. All you need is a passion and a willpower to take risk. Any entrepreneur should be able to take risk. If you're scared of taking the risk, then this is not the right place for you. Risk is there. It is, if you look at all the successful startups or all the successful ventures which are out there, they had a failure when they started. Nobody starts a company or a venture the very first time and succeeds. To just give you an example, our very own founder director, Dr. Rovesh Wadhwani, he failed 3 times. He's a alumni of IIM Mumbai, and he completed his education in Mumbai, then went down to the US and done his master's in AI, artificial intelligence. This was way back in the 80s, and he started his first AI company in the US back in around 85 to 89, that period. And as we all know, US is much advanced, 100 years advanced than what India is. Even though US was that advanced, his first artificial intelligence company was a failure. It was a disaster. Within 3 months, he had to shut it down. And he had a dream and a passion to always become an entrepreneur, and he did not want to work for anybody. Though he had very good offers, a lot of companies in the US wanted to give him a job with a good package, but he always had a passion to do that. The first company was a failure. He did not, break down, or he did not, feel bad about it. He took a break for about 6 months. And in that 6 months, he started pondering on what was his failure. Where did he go wrong? What was the thing? Then he started meeting other entrepreneurs, try to understand the region where he's from, understand the people's mindset, and will they be able to accept the artificial intelligence? What is putting them off? And after that, from the 8th or 9th month onwards is when he started his second company in the same artificial intelligence, but a little innovative than the first one. That was a kind of a success for him. It went off, for about a year and a half, and then the Gulf War started, and there was a recession in the US, and then boom, he had to close down. And it took him at least about 1.5 years, to come out of it. So he took a break of 1.5 years, and he founded Entrepreneur Society, or a forum where he had all the entrepreneurs on that, and they used to have various discussions. And he was also part of the Obama, office, where he used to give consultations for business, structures. And finally, in the year 1990 is when he broke through and started the third AI company, which is Symphony Technology, which is still running, so over 30 years now. And that was a major breakthrough. So he was a person who took the risk. He did not say, okay, I failed twice. Let me not go back into the same thing. Let me will try to offer him a very huge pie. 7 companies in the US. It is because of his perseverance that he thought that I should move forward. Failure is what is a success for me. And he learned from both his failures. And today he's done a lot of things in the AI sector. And currently there's he's running a project for artificial intelligence in agriculture, how to eliminate human interface in agriculture. So that's a huge project, which is he's running that project, and testing phase is going on. And hopefully we could see it in the near future that where we limit the interface of human beings in the agriculture sector. So this is only because of his passion and of his willpower to say, yes, let me go forward. Even though I fail, I will go forward. That is what should be in my mind. That is the strength of an entrepreneur. You should never give up. There will be ups and downs. Entrepreneurship is not an easy task. There will be ups and downs. There will be people who will reject you. There will be people who will put you down. Not everybody. When you find a solution, when you find a problem, and when you come out with a solution, and when you go to the market and meet people and tell them, okay, boss, this is the problem I foresee, or I understand this is a problem and this is my solution. Nobody will say okay to you the very first time. You will get negativity. that is human tendency. Nobody will accept it first. You will get negative. They will put it and say, no, this will not happen. This is something, oh, this problem. Okay, it is there for the past 20 years. Nobody done anything about it. What are you going to do about it? So at that point of time, if you get disheartened, if you get, okay, what I'm trying to do something to society and, these people are putting me down. If you get that kind of mindset, then you will not be able to move forward. So always have a mindset saying that, yes, you will have to face rejections. You have to overcome those rejections. That's a hurdle. You have to overcome all these rejections and hurdles. That's when you will be able to succeed. And then fine tune based on the feedback or based on the, the feedback you get from people. You need to fine tune your idea. You need to fine tune your solution. That's the only thing. And that happens only when you come from a good education background. Education always plays a role for any such kind of venture or any such kind of idea or solution you're going to give. That is what is my insight, what I have to put forward. Thank you.
I think you're on mute, Amit.
I'm sorry, I'm so not used to the virtual world yet, because in my world, it's a meet and greet world. So I thank you so much, sir, for your insightful words. I would request Ms. Divya Punaya, ma'am, to share your insights and enlightenments, ma'am.
Right. I just had two quick observations. Amit, would you have a rough idea of how long you would like me to speak for? So I'll kind of time it accordingly.
Please time it accordingly, ma'am.
I know. So how long do you?
It's actually 15 minutes, but there is no time limit for wisdom and knowledge, but please go forward and share your insights.
You want me to speak for 15 minutes? Is that what you said? I thought it was started.
Yes,
okay.
ma'am, 15
Not
minutes.
a problem at all. So let me just quickly start by saying that there are two different parts that I'd like to share today. I'm an entrepreneur and I also teach part-time. So I think when I saw the topic for today's discussion, I was very excited because I do work with students at all levels at colleges in Bangalore. Of course, and because I'm an entrepreneur and I also work with digital marketing, I end up working with other startups, also at a very close level to try and understand exactly what the problems they're trying to solve are. I'd like to start with two main observations. The first observation is that necessity is the mother of all inventions. And if you'd actually asked anybody, can Oxford College or Jain University have a panel discussion and have an entire 2-day workshop completely online, most people would have said this is probably not possible. One pandemic and the entire world is now very comfortable learning online, discussing online, collaborating online. And I think I'm sure at least some of the students who are here probably prefer the format because they're probably multitasking us with their favorite show on Netflix, or probably, on another window, they have some virtual game that's happening, which is a great use of their time as well, right? And they've become experts at doing this through the last couple of years of online classes. Let me now quickly start off by saying, why are students great entrepreneurs? I think most of the world's largest companies have had their ideas seeded in some college somewhere in the world. I think we've all seen how one of the apps that we're all addicted to, Facebook itself, was born inside a university. So why are student entrepreneurs such a big thing? First one, I think the risk-taking ability, right? So students don't have large mortgages, houses, or EMIs on cars to pay off most often. Second is they have a lot of creativity that is inbuilt. Third is they're in the mode of learning. I think startups that stop learning are the ones that stop being successful. So they're in the mode of learning. Fourth is the opportunities to collaborate. I think both the keynote speaker today had, as well as the principal today, mentioned how it's important to have like-minded individuals to make your startup successful. And within a university or within a high school, you actually find the opportunity to mingle with a large set of individuals, fellow students, probably professors, probably teachers, probably research scholars, and you're actually getting a lot of ability to understand that. And the last one, of course, is the ability to be able to do your real life research. So which means that you test your product, you look at your fellow students, you look at the communities that the school or the university provides, and you're able to quickly try and figure out what are the places in which I have my bugs, which are the problem areas within my idea, and how do I actually go back and solve it. As a nation, I think we've, in our 75th year of independence, we've come a long way, right? And as the government pulls out initiatives to actually encourage more and more entrepreneurs with the entire thing of self-sustenance, by also providing us resources in terms of fabulous financial packages for entrepreneurs, as well as excellent broadband connectivity. I think without a doubt today, the internet is the cheapest it is in India. And Indian students have a fabulous opportunity to be able to collaborate with members across the world to come up with solutions that can actually solve real life problems. Bringing all this to a nutshell, what I'd like to say is that it's colleges like yours, like Oxford and like Jain and probably like the colleges that I work with, that needs to give the opportunity to the student to become an entrepreneur, to encourage them. I think we shouldn't have another case like how Amit was talking about, how people were asking him, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? I think it should now end up being, why do you want to go work for somebody else? Why do you not want to start your own business? And that should be the mindset or the approach that we as institutions should go towards. We do see today most of the IIMs, most of the IITs, most of the leading colleges across the country have very active incubators within the campus, which provides a robust environment for students to actually build businesses, to even not just build a small business or a startup, but to also be able to scale up and step up within the four walls or the boundaries of the university itself. And they actually help them with funding. They help them with giving them a lot of mentorship, or giving them a lot of support systems from the university side. I'd like to end this by saying that I think that at the end of today's conversation, if even a few people, and I think being an entrepreneur is something that's inbuilt. Every single day, as a human being, you keep trying to see, how can I do something better? The actual movement of how can I make something better? How can I find an easier way to do something, to actually looking at how do I make this thing also profitable, is what makes you from just a human being to an entrepreneur. And I'm hoping to see that a lot of you in the audience today take your first steps to being an entrepreneur at the earliest. Do leave questions or comments on the chat box, and I'm happy to read them. But thank you so much, Amit. It was fabulous discussing this with you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And what I would like to add is how the students right now are blessed is thanks to Craig Jude sir and Divya Punaya ma'am, who are entrepreneurs and teachers. So that is what is available for you. You as students right now have access to such personalities who can share their knowledge while they're actually, I mean, every entrepreneur could be a teacher, but the fact that, I mean, an entrepreneur and a teacher is present here, sharing their knowledge with you is what it is today. So that is where it makes a difference. And now I would like Rishabh Jain, young and dynamic Rishabh Jain, to share his knowledge with us.
Okay, thank you, Amit. Thank you, Mr. V, and thank you, Mr. Craig, for sharing your valuable insights. And I'm not sure where do I start from, because both of you have really shared some valuable insights on this topic. So I'm quickly going to just zoom out from what we're discussing to relook at this specific topic, so that I can also talk on this specific topic beyond the details, which is quite valuably shared from both of you. So we're in a nation which is the world's second largest, which has the world's second largest population, and I'm just going to use a quick reference from the Lok Sabha Secretariat and the publication, which is available as a reference in during when the smart city had been initiated by the current government, which was in 2014. So in that publication, it said that the need of having a smart city, or rather smart cities in India, which is about 100, back then it seemed like an ambitious plan. And having 100 smart city uh, as a project to be executed in India seemed unrealistic, and people were questioning its need back then. So there was this. So when I tried reading this publication, I realized that it actually makes sense. And the reason is that we, as you know, the human population are heading. So by 2050, the rate at which we are growing, the world will need seven cities or seven sized cities like New Delhi on every single year basis. Which has to be created, and that when you take it from 2014 to about 2050, 36 years into seven smart cities, that gets you up to about 252 smart cities, which has to be available by 2050. And that amount of job opportunities and that amount of, that number of students to whom education institutions should be able to cater to has to be of that size. And now, coming back to this particular topic, which means, so now what's the population of New Delhi as such? On an average, it's anything close to 35 to 38 lakhs. Now, when you go about multiplying that with 252, that gets you to close to 95 crores or so. Now, this is an addition to what our existing population already is. So, having said that, so that's the size, and that's the potential need which is going to arise by 2050, right? So keeping that in mind, we and by the way, this report is from Lardis, which is currently available, and all of you can access that and read through it. And that gives out and that will introduce a lot of opportunities for citizens of India. Now, why is India willing to take that initiative? Is because we, being the second largest population or populated country, will have majority of that need being required within our own country, and hence us taking that particular step right now, which was 36 years before the actual timeline. Now, having said that, there is going to be larger needs, and for that there is going to be a shift. And thanks to the pandemic, that has really pushed, as Mr. Amit had highlighted, that 2 years prior, or Ms. Divya had actually also highlighted this, that 2 years prior, none of us would have really gone out of our comfort zone to really pursue a virtual-based experience or a training experience. But now we have adapted, and we, the same human beings who were quite resistant to such a change, have now adapted. Now, this gives an opportunity to new avenues. So I'd like to use another reference from Arizona State University and Thunderbird, who are working on an ambitious project to cater to about 100 million students. Now, I repeat, 100 million students will be given scholarship for 5 courses, which will be taught in 40 languages. Now, I'd like to just deviate from this particular topic a little bit and use a movie's reference. Now, the reason why a movie like KGF, to make this discussion a little more engaging, the reason why a movie like KGF could go about reaching out to massive numbers in India, which was, by the way, a barrier for a lot of films coming in from the South to cater to a wider audience across the nation and get that many number of views, was purely because of its lingual presence and the number of languages it had gone about releasing it in, made it. And of course, the content had to be curated in such a manner that it addressed a wider niche, addressed a diverse set of participants or citizens in this nation. And because that was done, that got some amazing acceptance from the entire film industry, and at the same time viewers from across the nation. And hence the kind of records they broke was just fabulous and phenomenal. And that was an eye-opener for not just people from Bollywood, but from Hollywood as well, because that's how they knew if they wish to enter and get this amazing demography to support their business plans, or not just movies but also different businesses. Because when you use that as a reference, you need to understand that when you localize content, that leads to adding a lot more users to your respective platform. Now, coming back to the shift which we are talking about from Arizona State University, so they will be focusing on just 5 programs, but in 40 languages, in order to ensure that that content is localized in such a manner that 100 million people will be able to use or given an access to the education. Now, with so let's understand, because the topic narrows down to education and studentpreneurship today. So by 2050 there is going to be a huge need for students willing to study and receiving quality education. And the other side, which has always been a nightmare for a lot of colleges, is that how are we going to place our students? And our students are usually coming to our colleges with a sense of security that they may get placed. So both of them are a concern. One is to be able to cater to such a wider audience, and the other one is to be able to place them for their respective careers, which is the reason as to why they're coming to our institution, to really skill themselves. So this is just my take, and I'd love to know what are the other, if you guys have a different point of view, and I'd love to learn more from that. So students already have an access to enormous amount of content online. It's not something, so any student, so they need to become autodidactic. Now, any idea what autodidactic means? So if you don't know the meaning of autodidactic, and if you're going to go and search that itself in it shows that you're autodidactic, meaning that in life you're not going to have answers, right? And that is why we should have the ability to go and search for the solution to such a problem or a question. And being autodidactic means being able to find answers by asking people, by checking it online, by going and putting your feet into the pool to be able to get a sense of what it is really like. So students will have to be autodidactic. They will have to ensure that they find solutions to problems. So now they will have to understand that identifying quality questions, because will lead them to getting answers, because answers are available. They're available in tons. And so it is going to be an issue for them to select the right one. So narrowing down on their selection is going to be a priority, followed by the most important part is, after they understand which sector to look into, they will have to follow their curiosity. And by following the curiosity, they will then understand that these are the areas which is of their interest and something which they align. And I can also understand earlier education institutions could create curriculum for next 10, 15, 20 years. But that's not the case, because every 2-3 years, thanks to technology, we have to keep changing, just like how we get our software updates once every 6 or 3 months or so, right? So similarly, the education content has to also keep updating on regular basis. So students, so because there's a lot of content available online, teaching what is it will not be a priority anymore. But how do you do it is going to be a priority, which is what students will come to education institutions for. It is going to be a platform. So the pillars of education is going to be pillars of education system is going to be a platform where students come and connect with each other in physical world, because they're already well connected in the online world, and we don't have to really teach them. They are the ones who are going to teach us, and we should actually invite those people to master classes here to teach us as to how do they really connect and network in the virtual world. So coming back to this, so one of the concrete pillars is to ensure that there is this physical engagement. Now, in order to be, and that's going to be one of the strongest pillars for education institutions to really survive as a platform in the future. So when we do this, we need to create situational learning, meaning students really love and they find themselves in a spot where they're able to learn a lot through activities. And I'm sure all of us realize and are able to understand the importance of gamified education. That is something which we don't even have to talk about in depth. But you can pick topics, like even if you take something which is as basic as leadership, and put them into situation-based learning, like situation leadership at 26,000 feet. How are you going to, solve for your team with X number of challenges? And you guys are in a team. These are your resources. How are you going to solve it? Be it this. I had recently conducted. I just concluded doing 2 terms of on startup boot camps for a business school in an electronic city called Gibbs Business School, where the students were introduced to testing their hypothesis. The management was quite keen. They said that, I know that our students might be looking forward to getting placed very soon, but somewhere deep in their heart, they have this willingness to go out and pursue the startup life. So through the startup bootcamp, which we wish to create in our college, what if we can help students test their hypothesis? Because this will always be there in their head, and unless they go about executing it, they will not know if this idea really works or not. So when we allow them to put forth what their idea was in reality and try helping them, giving them step-by-step process to test their hypothesis in real world, they realized why it can succeed and why it will not succeed. And with the right corrections, they could really go ahead and pursue that in executing this in real life. So what I could also now the seed of doing this in real life was possible when I was in San Francisco in the Silicon Valley, where I met somebody in a conference who said that in his early education uh, uh, days, which is in the primary and secondary education, so he was not taught photosynthesis as a way to read it from his textbook and write the same thing in his exam. His entire education system was so different, where he was given a question that this is what you need to reflect and come back to me with your daily observation for the next 30 to 45 days. And that is that identify a particular seed which you will need, which can grow in the next 30 days, and in the current weather conditions which is there of this particular year, and the soil which is available in your surrounding. So what happens is, and mind you, this was back in 2010 when he was still in his school days. So, or maybe earlier. So when that student went about asking a lot of people, because back then the internet wasn't as prominent as it is today, the student went about going and asking everybody, what are the kind of seeds which will give me fruits, or probably which will actually blossom in the next 30 to 45 days. And imagine the number of plants that student would have gone about researched online. Imagine the analysis which a student had to go through to understand in which particular time of the year can I really grow this, and what kind of soil will suit that particular plant, right? So when they go for testing this hypothesis, they learn much better than just learning what photosynthesis is, and thereby reflecting on daily basis and journaling that and converting that into a white paper. So imagine when you go about allowing the students to, or asking the students to do this for every single subject, by creating a really powerful question and asking them to go about executing this in that manner, whether record and reflect on daily reflections, and then after a month they have a one-to-one interview with their respective faculty members. Now, this leads me to my final section, which is studentpreneurship. Now, we understand that we are not in this environment where students are willing to go ahead and take that risk and jump into this, but that is required. They will have to take up these roles because the number of jobs which will be required on year-on-year basis is going to be enormous, and it is going to be difficult for the government, education institutions, and a lot of platforms to support the number of jobs which will be needed for the future. So the answer for this is gig economy. This is something which will create a self-sustained job satisfaction amongst a lot of youth members, and the kind of opportunities which are out there which have been created, the number of avenues which have been created in the current world, where I can see a lot of my interns from 6 years, 7 years ago are now earning a handsome, you know, 80,000 rupees a month. And I see the thing is that right after your college, from the first year to 10th year, your goal is to somehow figure out that basic income of being able to generate 1 lakh rupees per month, right? So the moment you're able to do that, you're able to sustain in the city, be it Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, etc., Chennai. So when you're able to contribute or able to create 1 lakh rupees of cash, which you're able to uh, be able to support your own family, you can then look forward to having a quality life to be able to pursue a lot of other things. And again, by doing things which you love. So how are these things possible? There are endless opportunities in the digital world where thanks to things opening up so well right now, there are a lot of people across the world who have certain requirements based on certain skill sets. And you will have to refresh your skill sets every 6 or 7 years, which you can go about capitalizing on. Because learning Photoshop is something which made sense, 5 years in the past. We have Canva for being able to do all of that, and you just go to websites like remove.bg, and everything is sorted. A non-technical person will be able to do all of this as to what someone did proficiently 5 years ago. So you will have to keep upskilling, reskilling, thereby having a lifelong learning opportunity under each and every education institution to be able to capitalize more on in terms of revenue and in terms of that opportunity. And finally, students will have to learn to build that personality, and that will be possible if we imbibe this boot camp based education in the college, which is thanks to the Atal Tinkering Lab. I was just invited to be a part of the Mentor for Change, and they were talking about having these e-cells, which is already there in prominence across India, where the goal is to first build that personality, allow students to commit mistakes as much as possible when they are in the current safe environment. And once they're able to build that personality, they will find themselves in this environment where it is okay to really fail, because that's where you learn and get your most valuable learnings and lessons from. So thank you so much. And I just hope I haven't gone way beyond the expected time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Rishabh. I mean, a lot of valuable points there. Also would like to mention that lastly, his closing line, which he mentioned, that students right now have that safe environment where they can experiment before stepping out in the world. And that is exactly what is happening. And that is what is available. System that equips you to get out in that world and fail, probably not succeed, but because, like I mentioned, failing is how you learn, and that's where your success begins. And those are the stepping stones, like wisely someone said long back. But unless and until you experience it, you really don't know how good those stepping stones are. I thank all of you, and I would like to ask all the people who are listening to ask questions to any of us. We'll have a Q&A session. Ma'am, sir, and Rishabh, everybody is like waiting to answer your questions.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. I'm Anuradha. I'm assistant professor. My students have a few questions. In one, like, does an entrepreneur always have to face a failure?
Okay, I would let Rishabh talk about this.
Sure, thank you. Why not? Why can't we go ahead and chase problems rather than that chasing us in the future? Because historically it has proven that problems are our biggest sources of learnings and biggest sources of being more efficient as human beings. Right from discovering the first wheel to the technology which allows us to locate us so accurately, where Dunzo, Swiggy, Zomato is something which we use on a regular basis. So all of this was possible through field experiments, where you keep pivoting from one point to another. So why not? Yes, it is required, but why not? I mean, that's something which I think we should have as a mindset. I'd love to know other people's thoughts as well.
Ma'am, your insight about the same, ma'am?
So I think our perception of failure is what needs to change. It's not a bad word, right? So it's just like, I mean, it's just that I think we need to say that, okay, fine, these are stumbling blocks that would happen, would not happen. And I think every experience, whether it's the first time that you invoice your client or the first time that your software crashes, both are equally, I think, special moments in any entrepreneur's lives. I don't think that just because you've got your first invoice, you can immediately put out news in the headline that your startup is massively successful, or just because your software has crashed the first time that you demoed it, you need to label it as a failure. So I think if there has been any learning experience from any incident in your entrepreneurial journey, that's all good, ma'am. I hope we've answered your question, Anuradha.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. I have a next question from the student. What was your biggest challenges to rise as an entrepreneur?
I think I request Amit to answer this.
So if you go about asking what was the biggest challenge to rise as an entrepreneur, I mean, there were a lot of challenges. I mean, being an entrepreneur itself is a wonderful challenge, because if you are willing to take up challenges, that's only time you can become an entrepreneur. So that question is pretty broad. I mean, there were quite a lot of challenges, like I mentioned. I mean, it's about what people said in the beginning. I mean, like, because the time when I started my journey, it was a very different environment. And like how Sam clearly mentioned, I mean, back then we didn't have so many mentors around. Back then, if you wanted information about something, I mean, you were running around, you were asking people, and you might not always get the right answer. And how Rishabh clearly mentioned as well, I mean, you have a lot of information. It is filtering the right answer, which actually is the solution for you, which is the biggest step in becoming an entrepreneur, because you have answers. Everybody has an answer today. I mean, you step down. I mean, even if it is a simple thing in life, I mean, let's put entrepreneurship aside. You have a simple problem in life, you step out, you ask 10 people, 10 people are going to give you 10 different answers. It's up to you to choose which one is right for you, because they share their experience, they share their perception. So the biggest challenge back then that I faced would ideally be refining that experience, because the number of people who had the relevant experience were limited. And also right now, there's so many people, the access. I mean, right now, I mean, if I have to talk to someone, I could just simply message someone on a LinkedIn. And I was like, hi, sir, this is me. I mean, this is what I'm looking at. If possible, could you please answer my question? Or it's virtually, I can sit at my home and I'm talking to wonderful people right now. So that is the access that we have right now. But at the same time, that is just one of the problems. I mean, there would be quite a lot of challenges. I mean, I can't sit and list down all the challenges, but the biggest challenge is understanding the environment around you. And also, very well said, I would say, knowing which answer is right for you, because lack of information is also a problem. Having too much information is also a problem. So, I mean, if you have hundreds of answers, if you take too much time to understand which one is right for you, or if you had the opportunity to sit and try each one of them, only then would you know which one would be suitable for you. So that would just be one of the solutions. I mean, challenges that I faced are quite a few of them. I mentioned this because of the fact that it is education and studentpreneurship that we are talking about. When you guys have so much content around you, I mean, so much information, mentors, I mean, and like Rishabh said, as a safe environment, you have so many people to ask a question, and you know who's relevant and who's not. So it is easier to filter, and that would be one of the challenges. That's all I can say.
Thank you, sir. We have another question. Which business requires less investment and gives more profit?
Okay. If one of you would like to answer this question.
I think this sounds like something straight out of a Panchatantra's tale, which is basically like, I want a no risk business with zero effort from my side and with very less investment, but I want to become a billionaire who's world renowned overnight. It literally is like the pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. I think most entrepreneurs, at least in an ideal world, don't start off by saying that I want to become rich and famous. They start off by saying I want to solve a simple problem that I can see in the world today. And if they happen to become rich and famous, it's great. But I think it shouldn't be the approach towards like, okay, fine, if I go and join HDFC Bank, this is how much my salary is going to be. If I become a startup entrepreneur, this is how much my salary is going to be, is usually not a great way to decide if or not entrepreneurship is for you.
So would you like to share your insights, sir, about the same thing?
Yeah, this is the question.
We have another question from one of the students.
1 second, ma'am. 1 second.
This is for Craig, sir. Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Yeah.
1 second. Sir was just sharing his insights.
So we have a question that how can students proactively develop entrepreneurial skills?
Okay, I will answer the previous one and then I'll come to the question now.
Definitely, sir.
So what I was trying to say for the previous question is, this question has been put forward to me whenever I go to any institute and do an orientation for our programs. So one thing we should understand, entrepreneurs are job providers. You become an entrepreneur, you provide jobs to the society. So you are able, to make 100 families benefit from what you're going to start. When you talk about, if I invest this much, I get, what would be my profit? You're a businessman. Only a businessman thinks about profit. If I put 100 rupees today, how much will I get, in 10 days? That's a businessman's thinking, but not an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur should never think of profit. The moment you start thinking, okay, if I'm going to, say if I invest a low of 50 rupees, I start something, I invest a low of 50 rupees. By the end of this month, I should get 1,000 rupees. It's a disaster for you. Your entrepreneurship skill itself is a disaster. You will not be, you only focus on making money than rather scaling up and rather, providing, jobs and rather building an ecosystem. So if, a person has a mindset of making money, then entrepreneurship is not the place where you need to be. It's a passion and it's innovative thought which you have to have. And the main thing is you're a job provider. So you provide millions of people with a basic income for the household. That is what is an entrepreneur. So that's thing I would like to say. And coming back to the second question, how would a student have that mindset? Now, see, being a student, you're exposed to so many things. You have a lot of media out there. You have a lot of information available. It's easier for you to identify a problem or an issue. It's not like the adults where we have so many things on our mind or on our head or on our plate that we're not able to go and search for some problem. But whereas students, other than studies, there's nothing else, there's nothing much you got to do. So it's easier for you to focus and identify a problem. It could be anything, it could be during your traveling time to college, you could find an issue, or during, at home, you could find a problem, or in your locality, in your society, you could find a problem. So that would only come if you keep your eyes open, eyes and ears open. That's the first thing which will induce you to be able to move into the idea of becoming an entrepreneur, or move into the idea of taking entrepreneurship. You should be able to be a person to identify an issue and identify a problem and go forward and come to the solution. That is what we always tell students is, watch out what is happening around you, see things around you. There could be the smallest problem which others would have ignored, but that would have caught you. You should have the eye to catch something which nobody else could have caught and build on that. once you're able to do that is when you will start thinking, okay, this is a problem. Let me see what can I give a solution to it. And that will only come out of interest. That will only come out of an interest of saying, yes, I want to do something on my own. Why do I need to work with somebody? Let me do something on my own. I'm educated. I have the brains. I have the capability. Why can't I do something on my own? Why should I depend on somebody else? So that's what is my take on it.
Rishabh, you were you're talking about startup camps and stuff with students. I mean, would you like to add something to this question, Rishabh?
Yeah, so I just like to say one small thing to this because it's covered that first chase value, and then the moment you chase value, profitability will follow. So I think that answers the question. And the moment you're able to add value which customers know that that part is taken care, then your profitability will by default be taken care. Yeah. Amit, you're on mute.
Yeah. Ma'am, any more questions, ma'am? You can go to the next question.
From another student.
I think there's one on the chat box as well.
Yes. So this question is, as it is technology era, it's difficult to adapt, and also what is the future of retail sector? Okay.
Future of retail. I mean, if that's okay, if I can just pitch in, and I'm sure all of you can just dive in and contribute. So the future of retail looks more hybrid. It's something which we're already seeing in existence. Thanks to Lenskart, they had this massive chain of outlets opened across only to support their online adaptation, because people were not comfortable. As a user behavior, we need to understand that retail sector will thrive. Okay, yeah. Now that we are talking about this, there is so much we can learn about the Chinese luxury segment or the Chinese retail segment, as to how they have had this beautiful hybrid model between online and offline experience. So online, as we are all aware, in China, WeChat is something which is of absolute prominence. It is like it's their super app, which has literally everything. The definition of super app is one app for literally all your major essential services which you use on regular basis through your smartphone. So what they've done is, let's say they roll out offers that etc. Louis Vuitton, these items, and then for those of them who wish to have it customized based on their preferences, kindly pick what time slot you would like to choose for an appointment, and based on that, we will have the best of the best designers at the store nearest to you to ensure that they can customize your experience. So now what happens is, imagine the time. So now, by the way, the nature of getting into a luxury store in these developed nations is where you literally have to stand in a queue, right? And that's how you're allowed to enter the store, because they have just 4 or 5 members who are allowed to walk into the store to preserve that feel free kind of an experience, and to ensure that those respective customers are given absolute attention who walk into that particular store. Now, talking about such experiences being this is just a luxury as a segment. There is a lot of other segments where this hybrid model of ensuring that it complements, as Philip Kotler very beautifully mentions through in his Marketing 4.0 book, that technology will be utilized in order to maximize the decision making for that customer in the offline world. And technology is just going to be a means for them to say that I go ahead and book it and confirm this order. But the offline experience, which is the humanization, the heart to heart, the mind to mind, which happens when you meet and interact with each other, will happen in the stores. So stores will only exist for human interactions and real-time product experience, which technology may not be able to suffice or has its limitation. So retail outlets are going to fulfill that part, which technology has its limitations to. So yeah, that's how the future looks like from my point of view, and I'm sure I would love to welcome other thoughts.
So there are two questions in this. I'd just like to take a minute to kind of talk about both. You're saying that it's the technology era, and what about firms or individuals who find it difficult to adapt? I think this is exactly where a brilliant entrepreneur is sitting behind that question. It's if you're finding that there are, I think somebody had a question, a comment to the previous speaker as well, where what if senior citizens are not able to access internet banking, find a way to solve the problem. If you're finding that there are, today we're having our Alexas and our Googles who kind of you can speak to, you can drive. So technology is only the backbone, right? And making it user-friendly is the job of entrepreneurs. So I'm sure that each time we find that there is a stumbling block with technology, there is a smart entrepreneur trying to solve that problem. The second part is about what is the future of the retail sector? I think the retail sector each day, each minute is becoming smarter and smarter. Today, I think at the very, very basic level, when you walk into an Amazon today, Amazon is able to figure out exactly what is it that you want to shop for and start giving you a lot of predictions based on the data that they've collected from you, as well as from your environment, as well as from your support system. I think in very many ways, the future of retail is going to be in understanding data, in probably artificial intelligence everywhere, which means that today they know how many cups of coffee that you're going to drink, and they know when you need a refill for your coffee filter before you yourself realize it. They know how much milk you need. And so at the very basic level, it's your subscription models that you see. But at the most complex model is basically retail sector is going to migrate to understanding the customer so well that the customer's needs are fulfilled even before the customer is aware that the need exists within them. Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll add, so I'll put this, so since I'm from the F&B industry, I'm going to just relate this question to the field that I am. And that is exactly what I'm doing. So I had a fine dine restaurant. So that, let's assume, I mean, that's the retail part of it. But when technology started growing forward, I started moving towards cloud kitchen. But that doesn't mean that I shut down my retail outlet or my fine dine experience. Now it's an experience. Now, if you seek an experience, so if like Rishabh said, if it's a product, there's still a certain bit of us who actually wants to touch and feel a product. So that is an experience. I mean, so the retail outlets are going to be there for the experience. So my fine dine restaurant is going to be open for the experience. You can walk in for an experience. You come and celebrate an occasion. But at the same time, when the digital era has come in, your comfort is important. Like ma'am mentioned, your needs, I mean, how a customer is important and her needs are important. I provide the same food that you're having in the fine dine. While you're seeking only the food comes to you. But when you're actually wanting that experience, you go into the outlet. But again, here, what is going to happen is, I mean, your question, I mean, where if I understood it right, would it see, I'm again making the second part of the question into my field, because that would be the best answer that I could give. Would it affect the manufacturer? Now the question is, there are two ways, I mean, digital era and the retail outlets are going to support. I mentioned my fine dine is going to be present there. But if I'm a small outlet, I'm saving my cost when I'm going digital. I have a cloud kitchen, which I set up at a minimal rate. I mean, half of the rate of setting up a fine dine restaurant. So it is also providing an opportunity for multiple brands to come up and cater to people who have their own needs. So the market's requirement is served from the digital era, and the experience are provided by larger brands in the form of fine dine restaurants, or, you know, so there's always going to be a hybrid. Doesn't mean, I mean, my retail outlet is only for experience. I also cater to Zomato and Swiggy orders from a fine dine restaurant. So it's always a hybrid model. When you're creating an experience, luxury brands, the bigger brands will always exist in the retail model where they have their outlets and they create an luxurious, they create an experience. At the same time, it becomes a hybrid. So manufacturers, will it affect? It is actually an opportunity. So if they can get the same product, if they understand the need of the market, they can manufacture the same product, and then the shadow, they can still sell it as long as they maintain the quality and the product is good. It is going to reach anywhere. So the question, will it affect the manufacturer? If you're a smart entrepreneur, obviously, you will capitalize. This is where, if it is you find that as a problem, you capitalize that, you come out as an entrepreneur. So that's my answer to that question. So would you like to say something about this?
Yeah, as what you were saying, Amit, in the retail sector, though there is technology, you need to be on both platforms. You need to be also in a retail outlet, also on your digital platform. You can't only depend on one particular platform for any business to scale up. At one point of time, we all know at one point of time, going forward, the next 15 to 20 years, everything is going to be digital. Everything. So the world is moving that way. So it is always better to have, both running parallel. Now, if you look back, why did digital start? It is because the world is moving so fast. We are all in a faster pace that we don't have time to go down to a store and buy something. That is where you'll find all these apps which have come out, and all Amazon, Flipkart, and you name it, have come to make our lives more easier. That is an opportunity which they realized, which is going to happen 15 years from now. So they took up that opportunity and said, okay, this is going to happen 15 years, let us start something. So it will not affect the retail sector at all. You have to, in order to scale up, in order to make your business to be steady and grow forward, you have to also be on tech. You will only have walk-in customers. That can never happen. And you have to lock down. How would you sell? If you were on a platform, somebody just think about groceries. If I'm in a supermarket and there's a pandemic and I have to shut down, how do I sell my stock? If I'm on technology and if I'm on an app or something, I'm able to sell. My business keeps running. If you're only going to depend upon customers coming, walking through you, you will not be able to have a sustainable source of revenue which you need for rotation, which you need to be able to move forward. So we have to get adapted to technology. Some way or the other, we have to learn. And now it's easy. Way back it was difficult. Way back, somebody to understand technology, it was difficult. And there are a lot of people saying, how will senior citizens, how do old people, be able to adapt? I think, in this case, we are wrong. There are so many old people are having smartphones now. There are so many senior citizens, and older people, past 70 years are on Facebook, are using Facebook. That means, we are moved forward. We are still having that mindset. How will the senior citizen, how would old people adapt? They have adapted. It's a youngsters like us who are yet to adapt. I still see youngsters, in the age group of between 30 to 35. Even some of them do not have smartphones. They still have the button phones with them. But whereas if you look at the senior people, they have already moved on. They have adapted to it. So we have to learn to adapt. As the world is moving forward, we have to learn to adapt to technology. Every year, every minute, technology keeps expanding. The technology keeps adapting. We cannot say, no, I want the traditional way. If you're going to be on
Thank you. As a faculty, I have a question. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, it's been pondering over several years. See, what happens is we have student entrepreneurs coming to us with ideas and with knowledge, and they seek our help So as a teacher, as a facilitator, what I can do is I connect them to some entrepreneurial network. Like we have started having an association with NEN, and Mr. Craig is helping us to start this Ignite course. And what happens, I see that they do not come back again with the same idea. They lack motivation and they need mentors. And we being teachers, we are only stuck to the, what you say, the world of books. We will not be able to give them the actual, the experience of a mentorship. And we still do not have an incubation center to help them to incubate their ideas. So how do we take this problem forward? How do we motivate our students and keep them, alive with their idea? Because the main motto of our entrepreneurship empowerment cell is our students should not be, begging for jobs. They should be job givers rather than the job seekers. So I would like the panelists to answer this.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah,
ma'am. Go ahead, ma'am.
I just had a couple of quick suggestions, which maybe you can roll out in the quickest way possible.
Yes.
One is, like you said, strategic tie-ups. There are so many entrepreneur organizations out there that for you to actually look at something in your proximity. For example, even if you go to shared co-working spaces and speak to them, they will be very happy to collaborate with a college. Like, the second thing is, look at your alumni. I think your alumni usually the strongest support in terms of your, people who will be happy to give their time and effort in terms of the mentorship that is required. And lastly, I think get your students thinking constantly about this by bringing in, like programs like this, or even through other lectures that are by entrepreneurs, because I think that keeps the brain churning, because it's very easy to get into this rut of traditional methods of saying that, okay, this is how I'm going to skill myself to go work for somebody else, to actually make them this thing. Is, I think these three might be things that you could roll out in a hurry, quickly. But apart from that, I think in the first year of your course, just like how you teach a course in marketing or in this thing, I think all management schools should make one compulsory paper on entrepreneurship with credits and marks given to actually developing a full-fledged business plan. I think that will kind of keep them motivated towards the entire thing as well. But yeah, if any of the other panelists would like to contribute.
So you would like to share something, sir?
Yeah. Since, I would like to share something. Since, we come from an entrepreneurship company who trains students, what we always, see is to get the students motivated. The only thing is we have to listen to their idea, point blank, even if the idea is crazy, we have a lot of students who are running a course, they will come with crazy ideas. Some of the ideas, if you look at it, you will know that it is not possible. So we don't stop with them. We still work with them. So that is how, as a faculty in your institute, you should be able to encourage them, right? Even if it's not that great, encourage them to think beyond that. Okay, fine, you've got this. Okay, why can't you think more innovative? Think out of the box. That is when they will have that interest. That is when the motivation will be there. But if you're going to stop them there and then come and say, okay, this is already existing. This idea is already there. What are you going to do about it? It's gone. That the mindset is all thrown out. Then you will not get them thinking for it. So the motivation is listen to their idea. Whether it is secondary, whether it is workable, not workable, that is secondary. But listen to what the idea is, and try to help them to think beyond what they have thought. Go out of the box. Think of something out of the box. That is what the encouragement the institutes have to do. It is not necessary that you have to have an e-cell, or it is not necessary that you It all comes from entrepreneurs to provide to the ecosystem, to provide to the society. We have to encourage them. In most of our courses, whatever courses we run, we always tell students to start a practice. We call it as a practice venture. We ask you to start a practice venture in your campus. That is what is the encouragement we give them. It could be anything. It could be either, opening a Xerox shop, or, if you have a canteen and there is a lot of, crowd at the canteen, try to do something, maybe have a token system, or, something. We always are, whatever courses students take, it's a must. They have to come with a practice measure. So they identify, it starts with the campus. That's how we encourage them. We tell you start with it, go around your campus for about a week, identify what are the problems students are facing, the problem the faculty is facing, the problem staffs are facing, the problem management facing. Bring those problems together, choose which you can solve, which you think is easy for you to solve, take that up and start a venture. So we call it a practice venture, and we make them run that for the entire semester, the entire course. And we move on from step by step. So that is the encouragement, which we give, and that's how they get the motivation. And also the institutes have to support them. I have to support the students, say, okay, fine, you can run this venture. There are a few institutes and colleges who also sponsor. They sponsor these ventures. If it's going to be a commercial, when they sponsor. And nowadays it is much easier to do it in your campus than to go outside and do it. Because one thing is, it's your known people, it's your friends, it's you know your faculty, so you won't have that backwardness of going and talking to them, or going to try to sell your idea or convince them about it. It is much easier for you. So it all starts with how we encourage our students. We can tie up an umpty number of entrepreneurship companies or entrepreneurship associations, but end of the day, it's how, as an institute, how we support. We have to dedicate a time for these type of courses. And even if you have an academic course in entrepreneurship only teach you academics. You only know theory, whereas the practical part of it you will not know unless you get your hands dirty. That is where associations and companies who train entrepreneurship, we make sure the student dirty their hands in terms of running their own practice venture. So that's how you'll be able to create that interest. And whenever you get opportunities, whenever try to run events, some kind of ideation event, some kind of maybe a startup, a 2-day startup event or something, so that you get students who are interested, and try to spread the word out to all the students. We have seen a couple of institutes, they only, one particular department only decide, okay, if it's going to be management, only management students will be spoken about entrepreneurship. The other students in the course do not even know that, okay, there's a course running like this, but they are interested. So it's how we put it forward. We have to go and spread the word out also. Okay, this is what we're trying to do. We are trying to give you an opportunity. This is what, don't only depend on placements. Placements are now becoming an issue for all institutes all over India, not only in the south, all over India. Institutes are facing it difficult to get placement. If 100 students are sitting for placement, at least 40 are not able to get placed. So unless we start spreading it to students, try to talk to them, try to make them understand why, what is the opportunity, why are we giving this opportunity, what it will benefit from you. That's how we create the interest in them. It's only by talking, making it aware, conducting frequent, workshops. It could be small workshops within the campus. And as a faculty, also you can be a kind of a mentor, depending upon the subject you are. Say, for example, if I'm a student, I'm starting a venture in your campus. Say I'm starting a photocopy shop, because there's only one photocopy place in the college and it's always crowded, and students are always there. Some students are not able to do it, all this stuff. So they have to go outside, and they're not able to go outside once in the campus. So I identify that problem. I set up a photocopy shop. As a faculty, if you're a faculty in marketing, a faculty teaches marketing, you can always help this venture in marketing. If you're a faculty who teaches finance, you can always help this venture in terms of putting their finance together. It is not, there's always a misconception saying that I'm a faculty, how can I contribute? Yes, you can contribute. It's what you're teaching. It is nothing different. The same marketing, MBA marketing, what you're teaching, the same thing what is going to be followed in any venture. It's the same MBA finance, what you're teaching is going to be followed in the same concepts are there in any business or any venture, any startup. So thinking that, okay, as a faculty, I will not be able to, mentor them. No, that's not the case. You can still be able, because, the subject, you're also having experience. You keep talking to a lot of people. You also keep looking at a lot of information, on the web. So you have that knowledge. So you can transport that knowledge. Then yes, you also have other, specialized people who you can engage with. But it should start first from the institute. It should start first from the faculty. The faculty should be convinced, saying that yes, I'll be able to do it. Unless the faculty is convinced that yes, I will be able to mentor this particular students or mentor this particular startup, is when you will start seeing a lot of interest. You will start seeing a lot of students will be taking this course. It is not about running it as an elective or a non-elective, because end of the day, whether you do it as an elective or a non-elective, it does not matter whether you become an entrepreneur or not. It is only for your credit base or for the students to take that particular thing. But the end result should be, if you're doing it as an elective or a non-elective, what is the outcome? Will these students be able to start their own venture? Will they be able to contribute to the ecosystem? That is what we have to see. That is the main thing, to focus, to make them interested. We have to put the word out, start spreading the word and say, okay, this is what, encourage them, tell them what is going to happen, another 10, 15 years, how the job trends is going to be. What is the solution? The solution of the job trends will only be creating more entrepreneurs. If you take the whole of India, our founder director, Dr. Rupesh Wadhwani, has met our Prime Minister about a year back, and we have been given an assignment by the Indian government, saying that by 2030, that is 2030, we need to create, as a foundation from our end, we need to create about 1 lakh entrepreneurs pan India. And out of 1 lakh entrepreneurs pan India, we are supposed, by 2025, we are supposed to create 1,200 startups, from our foundation as such. So there is opportunity. So we have to put that forward to the students. This information has to go to the students to make them understand, yes, this is what, we are ready to do. This is how, you're getting support. Nowadays, you're getting a lot of support from the government. It is not like before. Before it was, 10, 15, 20 years back, it was different. Now you're having a lot of support. Seed funding is there. You get, investors who come forward to fund you. Previously, I think during, Mr. Amit's time, to find an investor was a great difficulty. Today, if your idea is good, is innovative, they will come to you. Investors are ready to pitch in. Investors are ready to come. All our students, whenever they complete the course and when their startup is good, we get them investors. We put them on a platform where they pitch and they get investment. That groundwork should be done from the institute itself. You talk to them, tell them, this is what it is. It is not that, you put in your own money and start. There are opportunities. The government is giving funds. You have state, central government funding. You have state government funding. You have other angel investors who are there. That's how the motivation will be built. By just, simply running a course, okay, it's a course, please join those that are interested. They might take the course. You will find dropouts at the end of the course. So it's how we talk. We have to keep talking and motivating them. Whatever idea they come forward with, encourage that idea. Whether it is, scalable, not scalable, whether it will work, not work, that is secondary. That we can go to the next step. The first step is listen to their idea. Even if it's, if you find it is crazy, listen to it. And then brainstorm with them. Okay, see, this is, if this idea is like this, if you wanted to go, why can't you think of something different? That's how we encourage them. The moment you start doing that, you will find a lot of students moving towards entrepreneurship. You don't have to keep, calling them to keep taking the selective, every year. They will automatically come. So it's all depends upon how the institute promotes it. That's what I would like to say.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, please, ma'am.
No, carry on, Mr.
No, I was just thanking sir for the information. Please carry on with the question.
No, I really understood. I think the motivation stems from the constant effort from the institution as well. So I'll definitely seek your help, and maybe we'll take this forward And whatever the steps you talked about, giving information from the sources available, definitely I will, along with my other colleagues, we will start, passing this information to students. And each stage we will see how we can motivate them. Thank you, sir. Thank you for this insight.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Are there any more questions?
I don't think we have any more questions right now. And I, on behalf of the management, thank you for providing your gracious presence to join us today to enhance our knowledge. You have mentored our students to qualify in this competitive world, and through scores of the other startups for connecting them with the right mentors. And thank you so much. And now I request Professor Meera, HOD BCom, to deliver the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Kushbu. So on behalf of Oxford College of Business Management, I, Meera KL, the HOD of BCom program, would like to really extend my most sincere thanks to, first of all, Almighty God for making today's event a resounding success. With His blessings and grace, we are able to make this event, the successful one. A warm and graceful afternoon to our most valued Honorable Chairman of the Oxford Group of Institution, Sri S.N. Niyal Narasimharaju Garu, sir, and Dr. Chengraj Roychand Jain, Chancellor and founder of Chairman of Jain Group of Institution, Dr. Raj Singh, Vice Chancellor of Jain University, and Dr. Ishwar Iyer, Pro Vice Chancellor of Jain University, and Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Ramanujan Kashi, Senior Director of Dialpad India, respected Principal Dr. Nikita Alur, academician, research scholars, participants, and my dear students, and all others who are gathered here. It's my privilege to propose this vote of thanks and acknowledge the contribution of those who worked really hard to make this inaugural ceremony happen. On behalf of the Oxford College of Institution, I would like to extend my hearty vote of thanks to the panelist, Ms. Divya Purnaya, Founder Director, Brand Update, Mr. Craig Jude Moreya, Senior Programmer, Vadvani Foundation, Mr. Amit Nambia, Founder at Over the Cloud Group, and Mr. Rishabh Jain, Director, CEO, EvolveView, for their time they have spared from their busiest schedule to grace this occasion. And we actually are really thankful to all the panelists at the short notice. They spared their time and they could, make this panel happen. And we also had a lot of opportunity to listen to them. And definitely, it is something which has given us a new idea to take this entrepreneurship to the next step. Surely we will make whatever the steps possible from our end with the resources available to encourage our students to become entrepreneurs, as studentpreneurs is something which is catching up, and it is maybe the order of the day today. And I really extend my gratitude to all the panelists for gracing this occasion. And an event like this will never happen overnight. The wheel started rolling several weeks ago. It required minute planning and a bird's eye for all the details. We had been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very proactive, dedicated faculty, non-teaching staff of the institution. All of them pitched in, and most importantly, the students' fraternity helped us a lot. A special thanks to our respected principal, Dr. Nikita Alur, for being a catalyst, and she stimulated her best to make us do this. And of course, she stood by us as a pillar of strength. And with deep sense of appreciation, I also thank all my colleagues and particularly my entrepreneurship empowerment cell members for planning this and making this event happen. And also a big thank you and gratitude to all the paper presenters, academicians, participants, well-wishers, as well as my dear students for making this event happen. So thank you so much for attending this event. After this vote of thanks, there will be a feedback link sent to all the participants. I request them to please fill up this feedback link. And for all the paper presenters, technical sessions will be starting at 1:30 and your respective coordinators will give you the link. So best of luck for all the paper presenters and thank you for all other participants. Thank you. Kushbu, over to you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll definitely see how we can make this happen again soon enough. Thank you.